the weather that's coming up, I have to tell you that whatever virus Billy had in the computer system on his end within the last week or so, you've given it to me, Billy. I don't know what it is, but I have turned my laptop into an Etch-a-Sketch. Like, it is moving like I asked it to solve world hunger.
Oh no!
Like, there's too many variables. So it becomes that. Yeah, it's like a dot matrix printer at this point on the screen. What it tells me is just now it's popped up today. 39 degrees, few flurries. 43 degrees tomorrow, 45 degrees Sunday. And then Monday through Thursday, which is irrelevant, it says we're going to be back into the 50s. I just don't know if that's true.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. On this day in history, the two big ones. One, Ford Motor Company rolls out its first assembly line for the Model T 110 years ago today. And the other super big one, 1955, a woman named Rosa Parks refuses to get to the back of the bus, and she gets arrested for that.
Oh, nice.
She becomes quite an icon in the civil rights movement, moving that thing forward. Other than that, man, yesterday, I don't know if you had to work. After I got off the radio, it was one of those days where I felt like I'm going to be so productive because I don't have to leave the house. Everything I have to do, every deadline that I have can be generated from the home. And just like every other time, it never happens. I get more done when I have less time to do it. If I have a bunch of time, I don't know. I don't know how to explain how much more slowly I seem to walk across the room if I'm like, I'm in no rush.
Oh, yeah.
And then the day just vaporizes.
Yeah, it's my day was busy yesterday. Got had a neighbor stop by late morning, 11:30ish, and their heat was out in their house. And before calling a repair person, they know that I'm at home that part of the day and want to know if I could just come take a look. And so spent about 2 hours. And as of yesterday evening, and I'm waiting to hear from them this morning, heat was working. It was just basically blowing cold air. So spent a couple of hours and just did the thing that the furnace guy comes over and does the tune-up type thing just to check, because furnace problems are heat, combined with gas. Is that happening? Then it's thermostat, and then it's airflow and blower. That's basically it. There's nothing else there.
Yeah, I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, so went in, checked the pilot, made sure the gas was lighting first. That was good. Tested the thermostat, and the thermostat was at least telling the furnace to go on and off and on and off. So then it's a blower airflow problem. So went over and grabbed the shop vac and spent some time just vacuuming out the air exchange and rechanged the air filter for him. And that's what I really think was the issue, is that the air filter was fairly dirty, that I just don't think the airflow getting into where the blower mechanism and the heat elements were, there just wasn't enough air. Because then the other thing was telling me that is the furnace was cycling at about every 45 seconds. It was hitting a certain cycle, and it told me, just based on looking at how the process was going, that it wasn't reaching temp. The air wasn't reaching the right temperature.
This is the kind of detailed information that everyone tuned in for.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're like, this is Billy's household fix-it moment or something like that. Impressive that you know these things.
Yeah, you grab the shop vac and vacuum out the blower, vacuum out the intake and the out, the outs, and there was some buildup in the inflow pipe, and so took all that out.
I've had that issue.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. But I really think it was the air
prunes.
filter. Yeah, the air filter. Yeah, that's always more fiber. I don't know what that is, but the air filter was really, I think,
this was you yesterday.
Yeah, that was me yesterday. So that was just about 2 hours helping them out. Because that way they don't have to. I don't want them to have to call the dude in the truck, because then there's a service call, and then there's a examination fee, and then I had to put on a little booty fee, and then there's another fee to turn on the flashlight fee, and all the other stuff. So it rapidly adds up. And so I didn't want them to have to make a phone call unless you had to do some sort of repair. So if it wasn't something I could figure out, then okay. So probably saving a couple $100 yesterday.
If I wade through the minutia of the description of how to turn on and off the heater and get all the other stuff, what I hear you saying is you spend a good part of your day being a good person and helping out someone in need. I mean, that's the big takeaway for me. I don't have any of that yesterday.
No, see, the thing for me was that's very kind of you, because my way of looking at it is I spent several hours doing things that didn't help me get anything else accomplished during my day. Right now, again, it was being a nice
Oh,
neighbor, but the idea is it took me out of anything else that I needed to accomplish the day. But I did have the time. Luckily, I didn't have to do trivia or anything last night, so I had the time and I was happy to spend it with them. And it was nice chatting with them. So it's always nice to hang out with the neighbors for a while. So rather, I appreciate that your filter was he's being a nice person. My filter was. Oh, crap! I didn't get to do. I didn't get to do this. I was, there were things in the house I needed to do, but oh well, that's okay.
I
They can
thought
wait.
that when you fact checked me on
Yeah.
the goodness, you were going to say I did charge them $50 or something like
No,
that. You know what I
no,
mean? I
not at
did take
all.
$50 from them.
Nah, no, I mean, it's neighbors. You do, if the neighbor's tire's flat, you go fill the tire up. If the neighbor's stuck in the snow, you go push them out of the snow. You do it. It's if you don't want to
If
take
you
care of people
like
in the
the
neighborhood.
neighbors,
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, I've even helped neighbors that I don't particularly like. There's one gentleman in the neighborhood who has all the neighbors know that he does not know that he has a particular nickname, but everybody in the neighborhood knows that he has a particular nickname, and we all use the nickname and know exactly what we're talking about. But again, if he needed help, and I pushed his car out of the snow. I've helped him with other stuff. I've helped. There was one time I was out doing some stuff with the lawn, and he was working on something in his yard, and I went out and helped him out for a little bit. So yeah, that's okay. I will do that because I still think that even though he can be a little bit of a pain in the butt and a little bit of a problem, it is still the neighborhood. It is still the community. And I just at the core think that we have to look out for each other at that level.
The
So
shoveling out the street thing is
yeah.
real, but that's not just to help one person out. Like there was a time recently where somebody this isn't about gender, but
Yeah.
some woman is driving in her four-wheel drive after we had a considerable snowstorm. I'm saying within about the last 5 years,
Yeah.
and looked down an unplowed street and said, well, I mean, I'm in a Bronco or whatever. Like, what could
Obviously,
possibly
yeah.
be the damage? And they high centered on a big thing of
Yeah.
snow in the middle of and everybody came out to help them. And it was nice. It was the end scene from The Grinch Who Stole
Oh, that's
Christmas.
nice.
You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
we're all holding hands and Yahoo!
Yeah.
Dore. I mean,
Yes.
it was that moment, which was great. But look, let's be honest, man. There are some neighbors, and I know people are out there thinking this, and you're
Yeah.
a better person than I am, that if they saw their neighbor catch on fire, maybe they get the marshmallows. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
not rushing over. And I'm not saying that about my neighbors. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that if I had neighbors hypothetically who took one of those little dog shaped silhouette things you can put in
Yeah.
your yard,
Yeah.
and it looks like a dog rearing up to drop something off, and it says, don't let your dog poop in our yard, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And they were to stick it in a place that only we could see.
Oh, okay.
Hypothetically. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like right up against our property, like as if that had ever happened before,
Yeah.
which it has
Yeah.
never happened before. You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
walk dogs up and down the
Oh,
streets
yeah.
all the time. And I watch these clowns. I watch
Yep.
these clowns come and watch their dog rear up,
Oh,
do
yeah,
its
me too.
thing.
Yep.
And they look around like
Yes.
they're, like they're about to steal something, or
Yes.
they're a
And see, do I
congressman.
need to pick this up?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Does anybody? I mean, I only have
Yeah.
to pick it up if someone's
Jerks.
outside, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's the rule.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
they take off, and I'm furious because twofold. One, especially if
Yeah.
it's my yard, by the way, I'm on the porch and I'm like, you
Yeah.
forgot something, buddy.
Yeah.
And then it gets awkward. If it's the neighbor's yard, of course, I don't do the same thing, but I'm instantly incensed because I know that kind of malfeasance is the kind of thing that gets impugned to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah,
So,
the thing,
but
I get mad about that. The people that I do not understand, if you're walking your dog and the dog does its business, I do not fathom why you don't pick it up unless you are in a deep open field or deep into a green belt. If you are near anywhere a human is usually walking, riding a bike, doing whatever, why do you not? You went outside. You know what this dog does. You are familiar with it. You've had it in your house. You've seen in the backyard what it does. You understand the nature and the process. Why would you not plan ahead that in case to bring a bag with you, that in case the dog does this, that you would pick it up? Well, I mean, I'm fascinated by the idea that these people think this is okay, because would it be okay if my dog went and pooped and I picked it up and then I came over to your house and just dropped it on your lawn? Is that okay? Is that what you would like me to do? Because if you're going to leave it out for everybody else, that's what you're kind of saying is okay, that you're fine with it being anywhere else. And I don't understand why people do that. Probably not much of a surprise, but I may have gotten in several loud arguments with people that have accused me for not picking up after my dog, because my dog's a girl and she squats. And I have had a number of people.
Oh, you mean when she just pees?
Yes, I've had a number
yeah,
of people. There was one woman who, there was actually a friend of mine that was on the phone at the time, and he's like, "Wow, that was fun," because she pulled over and she's in her car and sees my dog peeing on the lawn, and she comes over and she's yelling at me about, "What are you doing? Why didn't you pick it up?" And I'm like, "Listen," and I looked at her. I'm like, "Are you not paying attention?" I go, "I have dog bags here attached to the leash. I do this. I picked this up. How dare you? You didn't see anything about this." And she's yelling at me about how I'm a horrible person. And so I told her, I go, "Tell you what, I'll make you a bet right now. You come over here, you find the poop that you say my dog just dropped. I will pick it up in my hand and rub it on my face while you take a picture on my cell phone and sell it to everyone on my top."
That's quite an offer.
I said, "Anybody in my contacts, send it to them." I go, "But on the other hand, you come over here, you can't find the poop. I'm putting your hand in that pee, and you get to wipe it on your face, and I take your cell phone and I send it to everybody in your
guys are
contacts."
Close. Is this your neighbor, or at least are they a block away?
This is just some random jackass driving down the street. Okay. And that's why I have no filter at that point. I'm like, I do not care. And she looks at me and she goes, and I go, well, and I pull out a bag out of the one, because they're attached to the leash, and I hand it. I go, "I've got the bag right here. How sure are you of what you saw?" And she goes, "Well, you better not." I'm like, no. And then I start waving the bag and she drives away. "Where are you going? I'm waiting for you. Come back. Some of the neighbors laughed when that was happening.
And then you reach down, grabbed your dog's poop, and threw it at her car.
No, I will. The thing is, I will not. I don't do that. I pick up the poop. I've got that. I have a bunch of it because my dog has double dropped on me. So I carry enough bags. I make sure that I don't do that because I think it is just so disgusting when someone leaves it. I think it's rude. I don't understand why you wouldn't. And again, you're the dog owner. You know how nature works. You're responsible for it. I have snakes. I have to clean up after them. Hell, I have children and I have to clean up after them. This is how nature works. If you're going to have the pet, clean up after it, regardless of where you are.
I'll say that there are places behind the house that we can walk where they're doing some construction on something.
Yeah.
And
the house aren't complete yet, and you can let them go in there.
Yeah.
And
my
little surprise is
sort of like, it's not, if it was someone's yard, for sure, because that would really piss me off.
Yeah.
But if it's the construction, building a new home thing, I'm much more amenable to whatever.
Well,
it's like the wilderness.
We've got a green belt where we walk with the dog, and if she is 10, 15 feet into the green belt, then I have a question, because at that point you're far enough away from where people normally are going to be. And if she's in weeds that are, knee deep, knee high, etc., okay, then I've got some things, because in that setting there is some ecological advantages to having feces, biodegrade. There is some advantage there. But if it's close enough to the walkway, if it's on the side of where people are going to be normally, no, don't do that. If they're running out in a big field, fine, who cares? Let them do their business, and it doesn't matter. But if they're on the soccer field, if they're on the baseball field, no, don't leave it there. Stop it. Stop being an idiot. I don't understand. I don't understand why we don't want to do that.
I don't get it either. Although I tell myself I'm gonna leave the house someday, and I'm gonna go to the left and I'm gonna go to the right. And I know most of these neighbors by sight and stuff, and I'm just gonna reconnect. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do that thing that I wish we did all over. I just never do it. I mean, candidly, I don't. I find every excuse in the world, and some of them are legit. Like, I have to be here, but like, to just go next door and be like, "Hi, just wanted to talk with you. Just wanted to catch up." I'm sure instantly they'd be like, "We're not looking to convert, freak show," or something like that, because
Can I
you show up at someone's door. That's the other thing. Somebody shows up at your door anymore, you're instantly skeptical. Like, you either have the dog with you that you're holding by the collar, you've grabbed a bat / shotgun, or so, you know what I mean? Something where the Ring doorbell, where you just want to talk to him through the video, or and God forbid you're a door-to-door salesperson or solicitor. When those people, that must be one of the most thankless, awful jobs possible. Because I know when someone rings the doorbell, if I don't open it and see my dad, or, you know what I mean, or one of the neighbors or something, I'm instantly like, what?
Yeah, that's why.
What can I do for you?
That's where my dog comes in real handy, because again, she's a medium-sized dog, but she acts when you open the door, and she doesn't know you because she is violently territorial. She acts like the one thing she wants to do, and it is her purpose in life, is to eat your face. and she is completely convincing. And I have had people, I have people step back several steps away from the door because she is lunging so hard. Now, it's not like she's not like frothing at the mouth, etc., but she is like, I want a piece of your right now. And she's like, get away from the house. And it's very nice. It allows me to close the door most of the time on those salespeople while they're already talking. I'm like, no, don't care. Sorry.
And you're doing it to save their lives. Yes. And I hope they know that. Like, I am helping you. Yeah. You will not die.
This is not, you will not need there's not going to be a scar stitches involved here. But if you get any closer, the dog will take your face off. And I love her for that because it's fantastic. But then the neighbors came over yesterday and she knows them. And of course, so I step outside and close the door behind her. And she's like, at the window, like, what are you doing? I will save you. I'm like, no, you know them. And so she's so upset. And they came in. So I knew that they needed something when they came over. So I'm happy to see them and they're good people. So yeah.
I gotta figure this out. That I gotta do better, because
what you do is go see them when they're outside. Don't walk up to the door because that's awkward because you're invading their space and maybe their time. If they are already outside in the front yard, that's the time to talk to them. One, because they're probably doing something they're not that enthused about anyway. And if you can stop them and give them a little bit of a respite away from doing the stupid chore, they'll appreciate you for it. It is a great opportunity. Yeah. There was a guy that was blowing leaves the other morning, and they have a new baby in the neighborhood. And so I just, as I was walking the dog, stopped by and I'm like, hey, how's the little one, etc. And, wife has just started working from home. So we spent about, 2 minutes.
Meanwhile, your dog's pooping in their yard.
Yeah.
And you're trying to distract
him. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, that's so cute. Is that a mole?
What is that? What is that in the back of the garage over there? Yeah, exactly.
Finish up, baby.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. Good dog. Yeah.
And then you quickly pointed out someone else. I know who left that.
Yeah, I know exactly.
It's the guy down the street.
It is. He's a jerk.
The guy with the purple band.
Yes.
You know which one.
You know that guy.
Let's go get him. Yeah. The big plans for the weekend are virtually nothing because I have drill.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry.
It's a drill weekend.
Yeah.
Which means no politics for me, which is okay. And by politics, I mean, I've said this before. People will know that I am critical of our governor and I am hypercritical of our attorney general.
Hadn't noticed.
Yeah. I really shelve that stuff when I'm in uniform for a couple of reasons. One, the governor's the commander in chief for the Guard. I take that stuff seriously. I may disagree with him on 8 billion things from HH to his approach on letting Kim Kardashian dictate criminal justice matters and all that other stuff. But when it comes to his operations as the commander in chief, you will never, ever, never hear me criticize him ever. It's just never going to happen.
Seems fair.
I just can't do it. And then so in uniform, I feel the same way about the politics piece. Like, we have seen so many institutions poisoned by politicians already, including right now, and we just did this the other day, the criminal justice system. Like, I'm horrified at the idea that people will begin to associate men and women in uniform with a certain political party. They may do it already. That would be horrific for us as a state and a country. So it means my weekend is going to be a lot of talking to myself out loud. Like, oh, I can't believe.
Good. I'll be doing the same thing.
It's freaking frustrating. I am on Twitter a lot. I do a lot on Twitter. As Amanda has told me for years now, Dad, you need to get off Twitter. And I'm like, yep. When I stop playing a role in public, I promise you that is the first thing I'm deleting from the phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that thing is pure poison.
Oh,
it does not serve any positive purpose that I can tell.
Not at all.
But so this weekend, it'll be all uniform. I just hope to be able to squeeze in some football watching, stuff like that, be able to take in the Broncos game or something. But other than that, I got nothing. Last night, I told you I was going to this premiere.
Yeah. How was that?
Went to super cool. As we're sitting there, and I talked about it on the radio.
Yeah.
As we're sitting there, the guy that's doing the premiere is like, well, let me just tell you, it's an Apple TV thing and all this. They were really uncomfortable with the idea of us showing a premiere. They really don't want anybody kind of talking about it and advertising it right now and doing any social media on it, because they've got their whole and I'm sitting there staring at the guy.
Uh-oh.
And I remember thinking, all these people that we've invited to this thing, none of them would ever do that. And I'm sitting next to Jeff, just staring at him like what kind of a jackass would do such a thing?
Who could possibly do that on his radio show?
And I'm thinking, is the podcast up?
Can I take it down?
Yeah. So, well, anyway, but listen, cat's out of the bag and probably pooping on Billy's lawn. But the bottom line is it was pretty awesome, man. It's about the hunt for John Wilkes Booth, and we get to see 2 of the 7 or 8 episodes. Pretty cool, really well made, pretty cool. If you don't know anything about the assassination of Lincoln, you'll appreciate it. If you've never been, Billy, have you been to Washington, D.C. before? That may sound like a stupid question, but some people are like, I've never been 3 blocks away.
No, never been to D.C. One of the places I've never been.
Dude, you got to go. If you go, of the millions of things that you go to see there, Ford's Theater is one of them.
Yeah.
And you go there in part because it's like, hey, I want to see where President Lincoln, our first president to be assassinated, was assassinated. But you're kind of taken aback by this is it. Like, you build it up in your mind like Ford's, and you walk inside and you go, and they've kept it largely preserved. It's still a functioning theater. And you're like, this is it, huh? And you're trying to picture how it happened. And then you go across the street where they took his body, where the place where he ended up dying was right across the street, and they have it all preserved. And you go up and you're trying to think back at the time. And I'm like, this is it, huh? I mean, like all of this history, and you picture it taking place on some grand scale or state. No, just some.
Yeah, it is really small, and and the Lincoln assassination is fascinating because not the first attempt on his life. There's some stuff beforehand, and the process John Wilkes Booth and what he endured as far as trying to run away is also really, really fascinating, and how they were tracking him and trying to catch him. Very, very interesting story. I'm excited to see the story. I think it's really cool.
It turns out he may have been a racist. I don't know if that's 100%.
You don't say.
Yeah, it feels like he
seems very odd.
Really did have a certain affinity for the South and their institutions at the time.
Very weird.
But it was pretty cool. And then we got to finish up with a nice dinner at Maggiano's. And
it's awesome.
I got to introduce Jeff to some super nice people. General Andy Love, who is a big figure in Colorado. And certainly he was back in the Guard. Guy ran the show for a long time. And just a really super nice, decent guy. And then some other really good folks. And I just couldn't.
Did you just General Love? Really?
I'm telling you, Andy Love. That's it. I mean,
General Love.
Yeah, if you ever hear of our former Supreme Court Justice, well, think about that. Along the way to becoming, he must have been Major Love. That's
I know.
Even better. Do you know what I mean?
He would have demoted me. I would have been. I just got.
I would have gotten in so much trouble at some level. You know what I mean?
I really, really hope we would have been friends, because otherwise I would have made him incredibly angry. But oh my God,
this is and I mentioned this on air before too. But my former staff judge advocate, who brought me onto active duty and ultimately sent me to Iraq, thank you, Steve, was Colonel Haight. Haight. That means that, and he was a career prosecutor in the Army, and there aren't career prosecutors in the Army, so that would says something. So at some point he was Major Haight.
Oh, I love
that. And I'm like, that's the bomb, man. Especially if you're a defendant, which we call the accused.
Yes.
If you're like, who's the prosecutor on this case? They're like, it's Major. Like, you are screwed, dude.
You need a jersey that has that on
you are screwed.
You need to get your own logo design. There's so many things you could do at that time.
And then you mellow out, because as you work your way through, you get promoted from colonel. Now you're just General Haight. Not general. Specific. You're just General Haight.
Yeah, just General.
A little bit of hate.
Just a little bit for everybody.
But that was cool. And then, did you do the trivia last night?
No. Yeah, I was at home last night. In fact,
what? Buddy, that's like a little bit of Christmas for you.
Yeah, it is. It's one. Yeah, I'm going to be doing Thursday next week, but it was a long day. I actually curled up and fell asleep on the couch way too early, because it's just been a really long week, and I am kind of worn down from a lot of other things going on in life, and so it has been a long week. So yeah, I fell asleep way too early last night, which not necessarily a bad thing.
What does that mean when you say early?
Yeah. 8:00.
Oh my God, that is early, buddy. That's cray early.
Yeah, it is ridiculously early. But yeah, I'm worn out. It has been a very, very long week, and I've got more stuff in front of me as far as radio and other things over the weekend. So yeah, no stop, but that's okay. That's my life. Not complaining about it. It's happy. The lights are on. The family's fed.
Healthy, largely healthy.
Yeah, largely healthy. Except
Dogs
for
still
probably
pooping
me.
in the yard.
Yeah. So yeah, and only our yard. So yeah, other than that, can't. Not complaints about it. It's just
I didn't.
This is what life is.
I didn't get to bed early because of this thing, but then I also had to stay up late and finish this column, which was already untimely. Sorry, Dan Yegamir out at the Gazette. And it's a column I'm writing pretty much based on.
For a small fee, I will do a rough draft for you. Just saying.
I'm just going to go AI. I'll go BT some other time,
Holy
but
crap,
AI for right
now. Something else on that. Okay, I shouldn't. I would totally derail the conversation right now with the AI thing. There's some controversy in the media.
Really? Well, we'll have to get to that.
Yeah, a couple of outlets have been.
We've got some room later in the show. We could definitely do that.
Yeah, a couple of outlets being caught using AI reporters and pretending that they are real people.
What? Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah, interesting. So go ahead with your AI.
I was just saying, I crushed this thing based really on our 2 hours of radio yesterday on the 7 to 9, talking about how Weiser's team. Oh, by the way, guess who was at the thing last night?
Phil.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that is good. If you didn't look at him and wink or give him a thumbs up, I'm disappointed in you.
Oh, I eagerly gripped his hand.
Oh,
and
good.
Introduced him to my son. I mean, because of course my son's heard all the stories, and I remember at one point. And listen, he was totally appropriate and professional too, and all that stuff. There wasn't anything about it, but it was just like, hey, Jeff, this is Phil. He's the Attorney General. And I just know that Jeff's like, I know. Sure. But he was very nice, and Phil was also very nice, so nothing like that. But it was just given our conversation on the radio. I'm like, of course he's here.
Of course. Now you could have gone all Kevin Smith, Mallrats, and stink palmed him. But that would have been
fun. There was no.
That could have been fun.
He was totally appropriate, totally nice,
and that's why that's why I am not allowed to go to these things. That's why I'm not invited, because that
if you could get yourself elected, Billy, at some point, which I know you keep that on the front of your mind, but
that would not happen. There's no way, and even the
I
audience
think we
knows
need because you would be in a different ideological way cut out of the MTG mold. You know what I mean? Like Billy's the guy that would stand up and yell something other than liar during the State of the Union. You know what I mean?
It's something.
Pull my finger.
Stand up. Dance break. And it would. I'm sorry.
Be like, is that the guy from Colorado?
Exactly.
Yep, that's it right there.
It's the marijuana state, obviously.
Yes. Yeah, he was an early adopter. I had to stay up late and finish this column.
Nice.
Which it was too long. There was too many of those clips where I tried to distill the quotes down and put it in there and all that other stuff. And so it probably isn't going to run this weekend. I'm probably going to have to get it in next week. But so while I have that on, while I'm doing that, I need some background sound, just to be, keeping
I need that too.
It's weird. I don't know how to describe it. If it was total silence, it's almost too distracting for me.
Absolutely.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I'm that way too.
So what do I put on? Little Breaking Bad.
Hey,
because
nice.
Jeff and I had started watching it like a year ago. When he was 15. I'm like, I think it's totally appropriate. Let's do it. We're up to now season 3, and there was an unfinished episode from the other night, so I'm like, I'll just put that on. I ended up, even after finishing the column, laying there watching another episode of Breaking Bad. Like, I forgot how good this is. You know what I mean? Like, this is really good.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
This is fantastic. It's got Better Call Saul. It's got Saul Goodman in it. It's got Ehrmantraut in it. It's got Poyos Crazios or whatever. And I mean, it's got all of the big characters that lead to some of the coolest parts of the series. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's midnight and Big Daddy got to get up to do the radio with Billy in like 15 minutes. So
wow, that's awful.
At some point during the show, if you hear dead silence, listen closely. You might hear snoring.
You're asleep.
Already.
I know that
is
feeling.
out.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we have a perfect time here. We haven't punched way past our normal.
We should do this.
Our normal thing. We should be because it's the loser edition too. If you choose the news.
Yes. And yesterday was full of so many surprises. Who knows what today holds? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited for this to see which ones I missed. And then, of course, as some texters have texted in, we need a loser edition of the loser edition of You Choose the News. At some point, we need to be able to do that. Having said that, Billy, are we going to be able to, if we punch out now, are we going to have time to be able to do some kind of an advertiser?
Oh, sure. I bet we can.
Okay, Big Daddy likes that. All right, let's cut away for a break. Then we're going to come back. We're going to get the uplifting news to end the week and start the month because, it's December the 1st. That'll be called the Thorpe Report. And then we're jumping in. Dude, looking at the text as I talk, here's somebody texted in and said, I knew a guy called Major Poon.
Oh, no way.
There's no way. Come on. That can't be real. I'm going to have to Google the last name Poon. That can't be real. That can't be. Anyway, and then we'll come back and we'll do the loser edition of You Choose the News. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly. To clear the clutter, contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Ask, I suppose, and you shall receive. The text, Billy, have included several folks who are trying to prove, in fact, that there is someone named Poon out there. The best is I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. There's a screenshot of one of the listeners who has Google searched just Poon, and here are some of the results that have popped up. What is a poon in Australian slang?
Oh,
how do you use poon in a sentence? And then finally, the part they were interested in, what type of name is Poon? It turns out it's a Chinese surname, a Cantonese form of the surname, some symbol I can't really decipher, and the rest. And then someone else texted in, I absolutely knew a woman named Poon before. And I just thought, this is going to get out of hand, because then someone's going to reference that orange astronaut drink, and and you just can't do stuff like that. So that's why we're moving very, very quickly to the legitimate and uplifting news called the Thorpe Report.
I love how you're confident this is legitimate, but okay, we'll go with that.
Well,
yeah, as close as we get here. All righty, sir. We're going to see a few flurries possibly this afternoon, but again, they told us that yesterday, so don't believe them. Snow is supposed to pick up in our northern mountains over the weekend, and it's coming close to our southern mountains. Meanwhile, Denver's going to be a mix of sun, clouds, possible snow flurries. In other words, they don't know, nor do they care.
Don't know.
Wind is going to pick up this weekend. Gusts of winds up to 40 miles per hour up and around the Denver metro area. You could see some higher gusts in the front range as well. Today, mostly cloudy, possibly a few flurries. Yeah, right, like they said yesterday. Could be, who knows. Highs right around 38, so going to be chilly today. Tomorrow, high of 42. Sunday, going to be 46 and then 57 by Monday because, of course, we get the bad weather over the weekend to depress us all. That's how it works. Police are investigating what appears to be a homicide in Commerce City. Police department said on Facebook that the person was found dead inside a home around 1:30 in the afternoon, 7300 block of Oneida Drive. Police initially called it a suspicious death. Later said it is a likely homicide. They did not announce how the person died, nor a name of either victim or suspect. So we're still waiting on that. A man was arrested in Wyoming on suspicion of a fatal shooting in Lone Tree, tied to law enforcement on a long chase before he was taken into custody last week. 23-year-old James Neal was wanted on suspicion of first-degree murder in connection of the death of Michael Lomier, 73, in Centennial, found dead in his SUV on South Yosemite Street near the Park Meadows Mall early in November. Police say it appeared Lomier had died of a gunshot wound. Spokesperson for the city of Lone Tree said that Neal had been arrested in Wyoming. A critical care specialist yesterday told the jury that in his medical opinion, there was no reason for paramedics to give Elijah McClain ketamine, the powerful sedative that ultimately is blamed for causing his death. That happened. One of Colorado's most troubled school boards has a new board president. Mike Peterson, friend of the show, announced that he was tendering his resignation at the end of the meeting last night. Peterson previously told colleagues he was going to resign by the end of the year. This week, Director David Ray, an outgoing member of the board minority, asked Peterson to abstain from voting on the new board president because he's likely to be the tiebreaker when the board votes for Peterson's replacement, which seems stupid. I mean, I understand what David is doing. I have much respect there, but he says, the vote might be tied. So what we don't need is a tiebreaker.
That's right.
Pardon me? Maybe you don't understand how the process works. I'm sorry. Even if you think that he shouldn't be voting to break the tie, maybe you ask him not to cast an original vote. And if there's a tiebreaker, maybe then he gets to vote.
They're also going to have to vote on, I don't know how
Silly.
the vacancy thing works, but I think the board votes on the vacancy. And of course,
Yes.
if you're, David, who I've known for a while down there, of course, you don't want the conservative majority picking the replacement for the conservative board president.
Yeah, Christy Williams is the
that
new
at
one.
all.
Yeah, Christy Williams won the vote. So she's the new board president. Oddly enough, she won the vote and broke the tie based on Peterson's vote. Wonder how that happened.
That's so interesting.
Again, the idea of
we're going to be tied, so don't vote.
No. So we shouldn't pick a president? Idiots. Okay. Our government in action, people.
We're still trying to get Mike on. I texted him as soon as Billy let me know about that. I knew it was coming. I didn't know it'd be yesterday. So
I was surprised yesterday. I thought he was going to go to the end of the year. I was surprised it was yesterday too. So,
well, and I don't know how many meetings they have left between now and the end of the year. Maybe this was
That's
the
probably
last public time to do it. But I'm
Yeah.
interested to know because I thought Mike was pretty effective in what he did. But we'll see.
I thought so too. And the Denver Broncos are going to get another primetime matchup. This time it will be kickoff for Week 15 against the Detroit Lions. It is going to be on December 16th at 6:15 in the evening. If you're a calendar aficionado, shout out to Alexa there listening. She will know. That is not a Sunday. That is a Saturday.
Mhm.
Yes, we have been flexed to the Saturday game, which I don't understand why the NFL is playing on Saturdays. It's stupid. But
I
yeah,
don't
we've been
mind
playing.
because it's more football.
Yeah, I again, the thing for me is, but it's a cycle. I look at it from the athletes. Their body is ready into a certain rhythm. That's why Thursday football night games are stupid because of the execution. The teams, it's great to see it, but they don't play that well because of the shortened week and they can't implement the entire game plan. Now we're cutting off another day and expecting the teams to get out on the field and perform as well. No. That's not how they implement the game plan. That's not how they walk through things. You're shortening the schedule. There's going to be some mistakes. Things are going to go wrong. Expect it. People are going to get hurt. That's what's going to happen. I just think for me, it's that Saturdays have always been college football days. And now the NFL is like, me too. Shut up. Just stop it. Stop it with NFL on Saturday.
Speaking of Thursday Night Football, I skipped it. I just did because we had this thing that Jeffy and I were
Yeah.
doing. Turns out it must have been a decent game.
I watched a little and then fell asleep, so I don't know. I have no clue. No clue what happened. Didn't even check.
It ended, normally Cowboys are rolling over on some teams, and Seattle didn't come in super strong.
No.
But 41-35 seems that's like a legit thing. And they were trailing as late as the fourth quarter. So, they were down 35-27. Looks like sometime early in the fourth, and they were able to come back. So that's something. Two other local sports updates via our good buddy Aaron. 5A, 4A state football championships this weekend. It is Columbine versus Cy Yon Cherry Creek.
That's a surprise.
Yeah. And then the 1AA in the NCAA, the 1AA college rugby Final Four this weekend. So for those of you that were looking for that, I think it's on the Ocho.
Yes, it is.
You just go get that. But that's still pretty cool. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to come back. I still hope we have enough time to do not only the loser edition of the Thorpe Report, but of course an advertiser because Daddy wants to eat. And then maybe get some food for the rest of the family. Stick around, George Brauchler. It's the George Show on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here on 710 KUS. It's the first of this month, the last of this week. It is the loser edition of You Choose the News.
Yes, sir, you are right. It is time for everybody's favorite, the loser edition of You Choose the News.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser.
You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, it is that time where we bring back the losers from earlier in the week. Those stories that George did not deem appropriate, did not feel they were up to his standards, didn't feel that he wanted to share them with you. He was keeping them all to himself. But now,
fancy.
they have that's why they're damp. Okay, and that's and now we have another chance to share them with you. Can't believe I said that. All right. Here are our headlines, sir. Why come to a reasonable conclusion when you can scare people? Headline number 2, it's almost like he knew something about it. Headline number 3, officials upset over business's excellent bookkeeping. And headline number 4, if only we knew someone to talk about it. Yes.
If only we knew someone who could talk about it.
If only we knew someone who could talk to about this. This is strange because there is a South Carolina inmate that is reportedly getting ready for release and is talking about how they're going to be a fantastic parent. Yes, that person is none other than Miss Susan Smith, 52 years old, who now through prison has been talking with several boyfriends. And she's saying that, yes, she thinks that she could be a great stepmother. You may not remember that in November 4th of 1994, Susan Smith was convicted because she had put her 2 young children into a car and let it roll into a lake and watch them die. Yes, the woman that watched her children die while the car was rolling into the lake, then made up a story about a black person kidnapping them and killing them.
Good Lord.
She thinks she's going to be a wonderful stepmom. If only there were some kids that we could ask about her parenting. If only we had that ability.
Good God.
I wonder what happened. If only we had an idea here. Yeah, I know. Talk about scary. The funny thing is the boyfriend writes back, babe, you'd be a great stepmom. No, already. Why come to a reasonable conclusion when you can scare people? Almost like he knew something about it, and officials upset over business's excellent bookkeeping. Officials are very, very upset about the sophisticated high-end brothels that were being run in Massachusetts and Virginia. Not because there was actual illegal things going on, but they're super mad the people running the brothel kept impeccable records. Yes, the 2 people running this, according to things that have been submitted to the U.S. District Court and District of Massachusetts by Homeland Security Investigation Special Agents, show impeccable bookkeeping, that they kept details on who was visiting the brothel, what the girls' stage names were, how much money individuals were spending at a time, how often they visited, what the girls' client list looked like. Yes, impeccable bookkeeping, and everybody involved in the brothel super, super upset because they're probably going to get pinched for it. And good.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Final question, the final one this morning, sir. I know.
Disappointing.
Why come to a reasonable conclusion when you can scare people, or it's almost like he knew something about it?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say scare.
Why come to a reasonable conclusion when you can scare people? You might have remembered that right around Thanksgiving weekend, we had a scare. There was, according to one major news outlet, a terrorist attack.
No.
Yes,
What?
it happened in the middle of the afternoon, right on the U.S.-Canada border. Yes, there was a car that burst into flames, and one prominent news outlet promptly reported that it was a terrorist attack. That there were explosives, massive explosives inside of the car. And these were terrorists. At one time, this outlet even talked about the car coming from Canada into the U.S., despite the fact that the security footage clearly showed the car was on the U.S. side of the border. There was all sorts of speculation about what sort of a terrorist, what sort of a terrorist could be involved. Is this Hamas coming? Is this ISIS? Are we all gonna die? But it turns out the actual thing is it's a problem with the Bentley car the couple was driving. If this particular news outlet would have done, 60 seconds worth of work, they could have figured out that the Bentley between 2018 and 2021 issued a recall on the Flying Spur and on other cars, the Continental GT, of which one of them they were driving, and basically the accelerator gets stuck. Now, the model year in question was a 2022, but the accelerator on that same model was getting stuck repeatedly between 2018 and 2021, and somehow nobody said, Maybe it's a mechanical problem. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Yes, that's it. Well, that is it. That is all the time we have for you, Tuesday News. And back to you. I wish we could get the advertiser, but I ran out of time. I ranted there a little bit. I apologize. We don't need.
Dang.
Yeah, we'll do it on Monday. I got one for you.
Nonetheless, say, listen, we're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, Red State, Blue State was on display last night. Did you watch it? And there's more information out there. It's a head scratcher on some of this stuff between the Californias, the Floridas, and everyone in between. George Brauchler. Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It is hour 2 of 4 on this first day of December. We left November in the rearview mirror. Last night, there was I don't know if you can call it a debate. It had debate aspects to it. There's no doubt about it. But there was a event that took place. Sean Hannity moderated it. It was between Governor Ron DeSantis. He's a presidential candidate, would like to be the Republican nominee instead of DJT. He's the governor of Florida. And then there's a governor named Gavin Newsom. You may have heard of him. He is the governor of the state of California. He would also like to be president of the United States, but he's not a declared candidate right now. There was, Billy, did you get a chance to watch any of it?
No, I did not.
Billy says a big fat no. Now, I couldn't watch it when it happened because, as I described to you in the 6 o'clock hour, I had some other stuff I was doing with Jeff, my son, but I did try, and I'm going to emphasize try because I didn't complete it, to get through it on the YouTubes. First off, very difficult to find it on the YouTubes, and I didn't think to go to Fox or anything like that. So I go to the YouTubes to find this thing, and the only version I can find is one that's being moderated by some lefty Californian in a suit. And this guy's probably hugely popular and has a huge following. And if people saw him, they'd know who it was. I didn't. But I just wanted to see this quote unquote debate. First off, I'm interested. Did you watch it? Did you guys see this debate? You can text in, you can call and let us know at 303-696-1971. I'm interested. Here was my takeaway from the 30-ish minutes that I watched. I don't know that I learned much, and I don't know if either of them were put down on the mat or if either of them stood out. But here's my takeaway, and then we're going to get into this red state, blue state thing because Billy found this pretty cool report here from the good folks at Cato, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But bottom line is, Ron DeSantis didn't do horribly. And if you go out there and look at any of the blogs that are out there or the websites or whatever that are right-leaning, that like Off the Press or I would say Drudge, but not even really Drudge, others like that, you'll get the sense that, hey, Ron DeSantis did great. He just really, really showed up. He did well. Gavin Newsom was just a big supporter of the Biden policies and a sycophant to the Biden administration and all this other stuff, which, by the way, he needs to be. If this guy wants to be the heir apparent, God forbid something happened to the president while he's campaigning and they needed a fallback person, Gavin Newsom would be that guy. He can't be taking up arms against the Biden administration and still be that dude. My takeaway, though, is the big winner of the night really was Gavin Newsom. Not because I'm an anti-Ron guy. I've been saying I'm ready for Ron forever. We'll talk about that later in the show, too. I'm not convinced Ron's even the heir apparent if something were to happen to Trump. It's starting to look like it's Nikki Haley. However, for purposes of last night, the red state, blue state thing, a couple observations. One, it is crystal clear to me that Sean Hannity, despite his statements that he was going to do a fair and balanced debate and he wasn't going to lean in the foxhole one way or the other, utter garbage there. And it's not his fault. He can't do that. It would be like if I were calling a Broncos Raiders game and I said, I'm going to try to do it right down the middle. I really would try to do it right down the middle. And yet everyone very quickly would realize I'm in the bag for the Broncos every single time. That's just going to happen. Same thing with Sean. He can't not do it. And I realized guys like I heard him say this the other night, longest cable news show host named Sean in American history or something like that. Big deal. Guy's way smarter, way better looking, way more successful than I am. But he is anything but unbiased and can't get himself to unbiased. And if you watch this debate, it's pretty clear it's 2-1, right? It is DeSantis and Hannity versus Newsom. And that's okay. Newsom had to know that going into it. But the reason I think Newsom's the big winner there, and it's a philosophy that I have adopted early on when I started to get involved in politics, and that is you cannot be afraid to walk through any door. And there were so many times that there were debates or stuff when I was running for DA or even attorney general, debates, radio shows, not on this network, not on this station, that it was clearly they were lefty and they were favorable towards whoever my opponents were on the Democrat side of things, like League of Women Voters debates. League of Women Voters, they serve an invaluable purpose, definitely left of center. Things like that. I would never say no. There was some hole in the wall, internet-based lefty radio show in Denver when I ran for AG at the same time Phil did. And I'd keep getting these invitations. And I think that sometimes they were inviting me thinking I was going to say, no, I'm not interested. I never said no, because I'll be honest, when you go to an audience that is predisposed not to like you, you can't lose votes. You can't lose votes. And unless you're a complete gong show, you're not going to say something or misstep in such a way that it will come back to haunt you. And that's the concern there, right? Like if you're super weak or you're super prone to gaffes, you don't want to do that because you're constantly concerned someone's laying in the weeds. They're going to pop an unexpected question and you're going to sound like the president or something. You're going to vomit up something about a town you're not in on an issue they didn't ask about. Nonetheless, Gavin Newsom gets invited by a super conservative, Sean Hannity, to come on to conservative Fox News to do a debate against a conservative. Who would say no to that? What Ron DeSantis should be insisting on is, hey, CNN, MSNBC, you should do the same dang thing. I want access to those people. Now, here's what I experienced, and I presume Gavin Newsom thinks this too. This guy is known in the lib circles. He's known in the Democratic Party, but he's not known beyond that. I think people have heard of the name. My guess his name ID is decent, but not great across the country. This guy has just now been exposed to a jillion conservatives out there and others and unaffiliated. But here's what he gets that Ron DeSantis doesn't get. He gets access to votes, voters, and check writers that he would have never had access to but for Sean Hannity. And at the end of the day, he may not have gained a single vote, but at the end of the day, they now know him and they know he's not a moron. They may disagree entirely with the policies that he pushed. They may think the statistics that he gave, where he says things at one point like, hey, over the last X number of years, because Hannity's question is, why is there such a great exodus out of blue states? And Newsom comes back and says, actually, we've taken in more Floridians who have relocated to California than Florida has taken in Californians. I don't know if that's true. I presume it could be fact checked. What a huge fact, right? Like this guy came prepared. He was coherent. The thing devolved into a whole lot of sniping and name calling, and I didn't think it was hugely productive from a substantive standpoint. But I do think if you're Gavin Newsom, you win the night just by not looking like the way you've been portrayed. The bar had been set so low for this guy that all he had to do was show up and not set himself on fire, wet himself, or announce that he was moving California to an official communist platform. I mean, short of any of those things, he wins. That's the problem, too, by the way, as we get into the potential for debates between Trump and Biden. When you set the bar so low for the other side, that's like, I just hope Biden shows up and is facing the cameras when he talks. You set the bar that low, you're helping Biden. Because Biden's going to show up and do better than that. He's going to. Even if you think he's a bumbling boob, he has some moments, no doubt, and they get captured and amplified on media. But all that guy has to do is show up and outperform the expectations, and he's a winner. That's what happened, in my opinion, last night with Gavin Newsom. I don't think Ron DeSantis was ever going to put him down on the mat. You don't accidentally become the governor of the state of California, just like you don't accidentally become the governor of the state of Florida. So this thing last night, before they said word one, was set up, in my opinion, to be at best a neutral for Ron DeSantis. But for Newsom, it was at worst a neutral. He just had far more to gain from doing it. I think he did himself a huge favor. Tactically speaking, it was smart. And that's kind of what I experienced too when I would be on the campaign trail and I would show up at all of these Democrat strongholds or these left leaning. My God, folks, I went to, when I was the DA, I went to the Arapahoe County Democrat breakfast to sit down and meet with them. Did I gain a single vote in that meeting? Probably not. But at the end of the day, what happened is 2 or 3 people would either text me or see me on the way out and say, you know what? Thanks for coming. And you're not what I expected. Thank you. Because now this person, less motivated to write a check, less motivated to make a phone call, less motivated to go knock on a door. And who knows, next time they're in a room and someone starts smack talking me, so they could be in my own house, they're going to say, you know what? I met that guy. He came to the Democrat breakfast. Thank you for injecting that fact. Not as bad as I thought. That's what Gavin Newsom got. And you may still hate this guy. You may still think you don't like his policies. But my guess is you came away feeling like that dude's no chump. That dude knows stuff. He can talk. He's going to be formidable. That's what I saw when I saw this last night. And so, each of them came armed with their statistics and all this other stuff. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it, but I'm interested in getting your take. If you watched it, give us a call, 303-696-1971. Frank, you're on 710. What do you think? What did you see last night?
Hey, good morning, George. First, I love your show, especially that
Thanks,
first
man.
hour where you
Me
guys
too.
just kind of go off
Me too.
script. And I learned so much stuff from you guys. I mean, your knowledge is unbelievable.
You're talking to Billy now. Thank you.
Yeah, well, both of you. But today was particularly good. So anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, I watched the first hour, and my hope was that they would just start wrestling on the ground, because I'm pretty sure that DeSantis airborne Jag could have taken the white tooth, winery boy, and it would have been a fun. That would have been awesome to watch that. But it was basically, white
Did you watch
tooth,
the whole thing?
winery.
It was like 2
No,
hours. You watched?
It was 2 hours. I couldn't take the second hour. My wife stayed up, and I don't know. She's a sucker for punishment, but no, it was useless. I mean, the whole thing was useless, and nothing changed. Democrats are still lying, cheating, stealing, baby killers. He lied about his baby killing record. He lied about what DeSantis wants. It's just.
What was when you started watching, Frank? What was your expectation, or even your wife's expressed expectation?
I can't speak for my wife, because after 45 years, I have no idea what she thinks. But
that is such a candid and honest statement.
Well, it's also very true. Yeah. Anyway, I was actually naively thinking that they would have a conversation about the difference between progressive liberals mindset and conservative mindset, and it never even got started that way. They were just screaming at each other. I mean, it was just like the Republican debate, except it was Democrat one-on-one, Democrat and Republican. But if they would have just started wrestling on the floor and punching each other physically, that would have been much more fun.
I got the same feeling just the 30 minutes that I watched. There was a lot of talking over each other. I just didn't feel like Hannity had control of the debate. I thought neither one of them showed up as a bigger jerk than the other. They just were both kind of saying their pieces and all. What did you think?
I think one showed up as a bigger politician than the other, namely the white tooth winery boy. He says, "Oh, I know you're different. I know, but you have such a nice family." I didn't see that part because I was in bed already, but I saw it this morning on the news. "Oh, yeah, but you really are a nice guy. You have a lovely wife and daughter. Give me a break, dude." And this thing about about people not having a bias, that has never been the case. Walter Cronkite had a serious bias, but
sure
he cloaked it so perfectly that nobody even knew it. Same thing with what's his name, Brokaw. Brokaw was a lefty, but he cloaked it so nobody knew it. Plus, the issues weren't so divisive back then. I mean, it wasn't like everything's polarized now. Back then, we were all kind of on the same page with a few difference of opinions, kind of thing. But other than that, we're all on the same page. Make America great. Now it's like, kill all the Jews. Upgrade Palestine. It's just obscene what's going on. And I tell you what, though, I did get a little bit off topic here. I have some hope. I don't know if you saw what.
Okay, tell me.
Elon. I don't know if you saw what Elon told Iger a couple days ago. Tell him to go F himself.
Well,
that gave me so much hope.
It wasn't Iger in the same way. He was being interviewed on a stage by a dude whose name escapes me.
Yeah.
I did watch that clip, man. It made his rounds.
And Iger
on
was
social
in
media.
the audience, and
Yeah.
it was directed at Iger, and he said hi, Bob, afterwards. But that gives me hope because, here's Disney, one of the bluest blue chip stocks in the history of America, right? Something I was raised on Disneyland. My grandparents lived in Los Angeles. I spent summers down there. We would go every week. I watched Disneyland get built. I've got pictures of it being under construction.
Yeah.
And it was like an icon, Disneyland. Oh my God, I'm going to Disneyland. And look what he did to it. Look what these people did to it. The stock went from $300 a share down to $100 a share, George. And go ahead.
So I was going to say some of it may have to do with the issues that have become forefront down there in Florida between DeSantis and Disney. But some of it is, I just read this the other day, like their latest movie, The Marvels. That thing is the worst performing MCU movie that they've ever had. It hasn't crested 100 million domestically. And for a movie that cost $10 trillion to make or whatever, I think some of it is they're bereft of new and bold ideas on the screen, and they've invested so much money, it costs them that. Then you add in some of the things that are taking place between the governor and Disney down there or in Orlando. And I can imagine that has an impact. I'll say this though, Frank, it's not going to keep me from taking the kids to Disney. Like we're supposed to go down there to do a Disney princess run. I can't believe I'm saying that. It was the only one we could get into. Go ahead.
I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, it's not about the woke BS for me. I mean, I've got to overlook that and just, I was raised on Disney. I can't just ditch them because of, they made this massive misstep in this woke stuff. But the other thing too is think back about a decade, maybe a little longer, when the Disney family, I forget his name, was looking at trying to buy back the parks. Because they were in such dismal shape, and so they were starting a little bit of a decline back then, and that was under Iger too. But Iger still got his job. This is ridiculous. You screw up one time, and you're going the way of Stephen Tubbs, dude. I screw up, half a time, and before I even get in the door, they lock me out. So this is just obscene, man. I mean, what our country has changed so much in terms of responsibility and accountability and all that. It just doesn't exist anymore. But anyway,
I have a question here. You're talking about Disney's stock price. What do you mean that they've tanked the stock price? That they've help me understand what you're saying about that, because that's not what the statistics say. That's not what the stock price of Disney says as far as history.
Disney stock was at $300 a share. About I can't give you exact details, Billy. It's right now sitting at about $100 a share. There's obvious.
I don't see it. I don't see it in the last 7 years trading at 300. I see it trading at 181 in what middle of 2021, and now trading just under 100. And the previous high was 2015 at 110. I just don't see that. I mean, you may have statistics or information. I don't.
No,
but the high that I see in the last since 1980, the stock price high that I see is the middle of the year in 2021. So I'm not certain your narrative about woke Iger or whatever belays the idea that the stock price is tanked because of it. I'm curious.
Okay, so like I said, 15 years ago, they started going on a different path with the parks not being the priority anymore. But back to the price of the stock, I'm quoting Charles, I can't think of his last name now, from Fox
Charles
financial
Payne.
news.
Yeah, you're talking Charles Payne. Yeah.
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 That's
I'll
what he
take a look.
said.
I mean,
And
I'm not saying that I'm right.
I didn't verify it.
Yeah, I will look.
He's-
I'm not saying I'm right, and he could have a different statistic. He could be looking at something else. I just didn't see it. I
Yeah.
just was curious. Okay,
Well, the
thank you.
number is the number, and it's well documented out there. You know, I mean, it's not like it's confusing. But I just quoted him, and maybe he's off. I don't know. But
Frank, final question. Is it your sense that from what you look around, and you're with me in a blue state, we used to be purple and way long ago red, but we're blue now. I want to start this conversation. Is it your sense that in the blue state, red state comparison, it's pretty obvious which states are thriving when it comes to things like economic liberty, when it comes to individual freedoms and all of those things? Is it pretty obvious to you?
Well, it is to me because I'm, you know, this is the way I think. I've been this way since Jimmy Carter, right? Since Reagan came in, I've always been a financial conservative and fiscal conservative and social liberal. I've since changed when the woke stuff came. I've now turned to a social conservative as well. But here's the thing: is that the debate? That's one thing about the debate last night. You know, the white tooth winery boy, but there's a lot of people that aren't as fixed in their beliefs as you and I, George.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people listen to the white tooth winery boy say, well, it's just your murder rate's worse, but our crime rate doesn't really matter. But even those statistics come out of who is it, FBI or whoever prints those statistics. And by why we slice and dice it this way and slice and dice this over here, so you're wrong about that. And that's what he started getting into about the tax rates and all that. My point is that he put enough doubt in people who are in the middle, in their minds to make it so they probably won't change. They're gonna still vote for them. So that's I don't know if that makes sense or not, but basically, he's a politician. He lies, cheats, and steals, and kills babies.
But you feel the same way about DeSantis?
Not so much. DeSantis, and again, I'm on DeSantis' side. Okay, so part of it is the bias. My bias is with DeSantis, so of course I'm not going to badmouth the guy. My first choice, and I will say it up front, is Trump, and I believe in my heart of hearts, George, that Trump is going to be the guy in 24.
No,
and
I think
if he's,
you don't need your heart of hearts. The numbers say that. I mean, and Newsom pointed this out yesterday. You may have heard this part early on. Newsom's like, you're being crushed in your own state. You're down 40 points in your own state to Trump. And that was a very clever, painful line to hear as Newsom, when he was making his comments, says at one point, he said, there is one fact that is true. Neither one of us are going to be on the ballot in 2024. For president of the United States, or we're not going to be our party's nominee for president. And I thought, oh, what a kick to the junk. That one hurts.
I mean, well, again, I'm biased, but I just took it as more BS from a lying, cheating, stealing communist.
I know.
I mean,
Frank,
it's just.
I got to cut away, man. It's 7:28. We took you long, but I love having the conversation. Have a great December 1st, and we'll talk with you next week. Hey, Frank's line is open at 303-696-1971. I got to cut away for a break, pay a couple bills. We'll come back. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Thanks, Frank, for getting us kicked off on this conversation. I'd love to hear from you as well. You can hit us on the text. You can also give us a call at 303-696-1971. We're going to have Mike Peterson in the 8 o'clock hour. He's going to come on. He is the recently resigned, by recently, I mean yesterday, president of the Douglas County School Board. That's a big one in the state of Colorado, not just based on size, but based on the political battles that take place in a school board election have shown up in Douglas County in ways they just haven't. It's not that that's not going on, but at that level and that kind of focus. And Mike is the president of the school board, or was up until last night, and then the head then of that conservative contingent on a 4-3 split. I'm anxious to have a conversation with him in the 8 o'clock hour about sort of, hey, what's going on? What are the thoughts behind this, the procedure, the optimism for the future, and all that other stuff. Meanwhile, we were talking a little bit in the last segment about the it's not really a debate. It was sort of like a debate, but the back and forth between Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida and candidate for Republican nominee for the president. And there are a bunch of texts that have come in here, and I'd love to get to these. There's this Cato study that Billy found that I think is pretty fascinating. Remember, Cato is a libertarian organization, and they're pretty purely libertarian. When it comes to fiscal economic stuff, kind of like Frank had described himself before his conversion after the woke stuff, very fiscally conservative, and on the social stuff, pretty freaking liberal. So here's some of the texts that have come in here. Here's Peter Boyles could talk about, yes, but my daughter will tease me because I told her I could never watch. This is a reference to the fact that I talked about this animated series on Netflix called Blue Eye Samurai that I was, somebody texted and they're like, I'm hooked, man. I can't stop watching it. Yeah, you're welcome. The head scratcher is why are two governors debating each other? Not much of a head scratcher. One of them wants the free. Anytime Fox News says, I'll give you 2 hours of airtime, who's going to say no to that? If CNN had the same kind of debate, if I'm Ron DeSantis, I'm like front of the line. Please pick me, pick me, pick me. It makes them seem bigger than they are on the political stage, especially for DeSantis's campaign, which feels a little bit like it's been struggling, doesn't it? I mean, at least based on some of the reports, it feels like despite the early advantage, the name ID, the optimism, the funding, he's struggling. So that's why he does it. Gavin Newsom, and I explained that in the last segment, no brainer. I would do it. Here's another text. I read that the Bentley recall that was issued didn't affect left-handed driving models. Maybe it should have. What? Honest to Pete, you keep your spouse locked in a closet at home. Here's another. Yo, George, watch less than 10 minutes of the quote debate. I thought it was pathetic. A pathetic Yo Mama fest. That is interesting. And the Yo Mama references to the fact that they kept trying to get zingers on each other. That's true. I wonder if there's a secondary market for stand-up comedians to come in and help politicians try to sound funny and pithy, because that's what it was. Another person texted and said, California's slick would not answer questions. That's interesting too. I do think early on there were some questions that he did not want to take on in the way that Hannity asked them. But I also think that he came prepared with at least tangentially relevant facts that would make it seem like he was addressing the issue while at the same time punching DeSantis. Here's another one. What does white tooth mean? I think he probably means he's got these perfectly bleached kind of teeth. Also, I think your caller really wants to see two guys getting it on the floor. I don't think that's true either. It says you're missing the point. These two are the establishment choices. The sales job begins. Well, Texter, what does that mean? The establishment, are you talking about like uniparty, that sort of mythology that we've got just the one party? Is that what this is? And who are not the establishment choices? Which governor out there would you think is not the establishment choice for the Republicans or the Dems? These are two guys that are governors of the biggest states. You could go to Texas, I suppose, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense right now either. They're just less relevant because they're not in the race here. And Alexa, of course, asking, which princess will you be? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. It says Disney is destroying itself. At this point, it's been years of the same old woke nonsense dropped in every single thing They put out, this is by design. Why else would they put out garbage time after time, year after year, with no sign of stopping? At this point, they know it's a losing product. Why keep it going? Because it's by design. Billy, you said something, and forgive me, man.
So they're trying to kill themselves? How does that make sense? Especially given the fact that we had the stock price high in 2021.
Yeah, I don't think, and Billy, I don't know if they can hear talking in my ear or not. I don't.
Yeah, they can.
Think
I'm on mic right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's in. Nobody sets out to destroy their own company.
But the
maybe
texter
there's a
says so.
tax advantage to that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But the texter said so, and that's where I'm having a problem. And some of the stuff I talked about with Frank is that I hear the stuff that is talked about with Disney, and it seems to me like people have come to a conclusion and that are working backwards. They're like, well, I'm mad at Disney, so obviously the stock price is tanked. Didn't happen. Well, I'm mad at Disney, so obviously they're trying to destroy the company. Didn't happen. I can agree that they are retreading some absolutely awful ideas, and they have overexposed the Marvel universe. But the idea that Disney in and of itself is tanking itself on purpose because of woke ideology. And again, I also find it incredibly interesting that we have people angry that a company, a private company, well, publicly traded company, expresses its opinion about certain things, because I thought that was kind of the idea we had behind the ruling in Citizens United, that corporations are people. They should be allowed to spend their money and take stands based on politics, etc. But now we're upset about it. I don't understand. Either we need to tell the corporations, stay quiet, don't tell us things, or you should be involved in politics. But what I really hear more times than not is, you be quiet unless you tell me what I want to hear. If you tell me what I want to hear, then I'm going to support you. And I don't think it's a question
of, I don't think what I hear the texter saying is that, hey, they're not allowed to have their political positions as an entity. I think what they're saying is they're killing themselves by incorporating all of this into every product that they put out there. That's a little different to me than just having political speech. And I do, by the way, believe, and I agree with you, Billy, they're entitled to do that. I think this texter is saying they're doing it and it's hurting stock prices. You're saying, no, that's not. Here's someone that texted in the information you too found, Billy, that says Disney stock traded at $203.02 on March 8th, 2021. I don't even know what it's trading at now.
If just under $100. But if Disney is killing themselves, then explain to me why it was at a high in 2021. Because last time I checked, they were all woke and stuff then. So if this narrative is correct, the stock price wouldn't have risen. We can talk about where it is now, and yes, it's down.
Yeah, and I don't know the history of how it rose or not, but why is it not doing well then right now? If it's disconnected from the woke stuff, what's the reason?
Don't know. I'm not coming to the table saying here's the entire reason that Disney is failing. I haven't looked at it. But what I'm saying is people that have postulated that is because the woke stuff and what they're referring to, I don't see that track. I don't have to have the correct answer personally on why the Disney stock is going down. But if you're telling me it's because of the woke stuff, then we should not see the stock rising during the times in which they're doing the woke stuff. That should follow and a lot of logically, but it's not. So I think the conclusion of it being because the woke stuff is off center. I think it has something to do with it, but I don't think that's the reason.
Here's something else. Great caller, but not sure why he can't just drop Disney. I was raised on baseball and it was a big part of my life for 50-ish years. But since MLB moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta, I haven't watched one game, not one inning, not one pitch. I can't do that. I just couldn't do it. Also was a huge all caps Marvel Comics fan for most of my life, but dropped Disney too once they went broke. And then finally, you have a point, Billy, but I'm expressing my right, not all caps, to watch or support them.
Oh, absolutely. And you do. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's another text.
Yeah.
It is, let me see here. The Disney's destroying itself. A lot of similar things here where people are upset with Disney. I don't like the position that Disney has taken on a bunch of these things, especially in Florida, that has given them, and it's not that they haven't generated positivity too, but have given them so many tax breaks and incentives to continue to do what they do. However, I think they have a right to do it. And I'm not going to not take the kids to the Disney World. It's not going to happen. And the superheroes movies, the problem is the kids are moving away from the superheroes movies for me. And some of it is quality. Like nobody in the house wants to go see the Marvels. That is a gut punch to me. Well, now Graham, of course, is standing there saying, I'd go see it. But it's like a gut punch to me because this is what we used to do. We'd all pile into the car and go see some superheroes movie. So, and now they're like, don't care. I mean, even Jeff last night when we were driving home, maybe we were at the movie theater watching this premiere that I'm not supposed to mention. And he was like, yeah, I know you want to go see Aquaman. Just not interested. I'm like, dang. And that's not even Marvel. That's not even DC. I'm just saying that there are transitions that are taking place generationally. And are you, yeah, that's my son on the camera. If you're looking to on the YouTubes or the Rumbles right there. I think those are big changes. Billy, we didn't even get to the dang part about the about the Cato report yet, and here we are coming up on.
True.
But it's a good conversation to have, right? Like I didn't want this to be about Disney, but maybe Disney's the microcosm here. Maybe Disney is the difference between California and Florida, and that was part of the debate last night too. Is that DeSantis says, "Hey, we never closed down Disney. You closed down Disney." So our Disney thrived. Your Disney got crushed. And then Newsom would come back and say, I know you want to run from it now, but you closed your beaches, you closed your schools, you closed all this stuff. And that's not me saying it. That's Donald Trump saying it. And so there was this back and forth and all this, but Disney showed up several times in some of the answers. So Billy, maybe we have to save a little bit of the Cato stuff for later on in the show or something, because we're going to have one more segment. I'm going to get to some more of the texts. But then at the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to have Mike Peterson on. And I hope that starts a conversation, too, about school boards and what's going on there, and the red and the blue and the left and the right with public education. You stick around. Come back, I don't know, a few minutes after you listen to all the great ads. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Not a ton of time left in this segment, and that's okay. We're going to be joined by Mike Peterson, former president of the Douglas County School Board, at the 8 o'clock hour. Here's some of the text. How can one be fiscally conservative and support social programs? How are those programs funded? That's not what I meant. Fiscally conservative and socially liberal, or social liberalism would say things like, let's legalize prostitution, or let's have a far less punitive, more permissive drug policy in terms of what drugs we do, less regulations on alcohol, including and firearms and all those sort of things. And that's what this Cato report that's really fascinating that Billy found has. There's just no reason for us to burn it right now. But that's the answer to the question. Is a true libertarian is someone who wants government to be only as large as it absolutely has to be to do the minimal constitutional functions it was created to perform. And yet at the same time, it wants government to not just be small for government purposes, but for our purposes, individual purposes. And so, for instance, if you had policies as a red state that said things like, you can't have these kinds of books available in schools, that would tend to lean against a socially liberal or a freedom kind of a score for Cato. Or if you had laws that were like the blue laws, you know, that outlawed the sale of alcohol on Sundays and that kind of stuff, that would cut against social freedoms, individual freedoms as well. If you have laws that seem to impact individuals based on their gender, their claimed gender, their sexual orientation, those are all things that would cut against social liberalism, but also individual freedom. That's how Cato would see it. So it's fascinating because in that context, when you look at how they've scored a bunch of these states, and we will go through this thing, it's just too good to not, what you can see is red states do really well when it comes to fiscal stuff. Well, red states do well. Really well is too strong. Blue states will shock you about which ones seem like they may be doing okay and better than others. But when it comes to the social liberalism, when it comes to the individual freedom part of this thing, well, you can guess how that thing turns out. And Colorado floats around up and down on that scale. We'll talk about how Colorado does relative to others, but you'll be fascinated, I think, by what you hear about California and Florida in terms of how they score and they scale. The other topic I want to get into, but we're going to talk to Mike next. The other topic I want to get into, though, is Nikki Haley. I mean, the PR blitz is paying off. Her performance on the debates, and I've never been a believer that debates can do you any good, only that they can risk doing you harm, right? Like in terms of these big national ones. I think she's proving it otherwise. Her performance there has brought her to the attention of a bunch of donors. She just won over the Koch network, right? The Koch network, which is huge. When you talk about grassroots, you think about AFP and these folks are now behind Nikki Haley as the Trump alternative. Ron DeSantis is starting to slip away. And while Scott Walker from Wisconsin popped smoke way earlier than this in the campaign cycle, Ron is in danger, man. If that guy doesn't win Iowa or come in an extremely close second, I think we could have seen maybe the last of the Ron DeSantis campaign. I know that's crazy to say out loud. This guy's struggling. New Hampshire, Iowa, I don't even know what's going on in South Carolina. It could be a Nikki Haley alternative kind of a race for Donald Trump, but we'll get a chance to talk about that. Billy, how much time we got? 20 whole seconds. Let me just tell you, stick around. Big news. Mike Peterson, the school board president, just resigned last night in Douglas County. We'll talk to him about why and what's next when we come back. You just stick around here. It's George Brauchler on 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here halfway through the Friday show. It's the first day of December. Breaking news you may have heard at the top of the hour. Sandra Day O'Connor, first woman appointed to the United States Supreme Court. And yes, by a Republican. His name was Ronald Reagan. She was 93 years old, passed away. Just a quick mention. There are a bunch of books written about her, and there's a couple by her. There's one, I think it was The Majesty of the Law. It could be First. But a book I read a while ago now, and it was fantastic. And when I say read, you should hear me say audiobook, because I have not had the luxury of being able to sit down with a book and read for over a decade. So it was an incredible read. She has such an incredible history of her path to get to the Supreme Court, including taking time out of her career to go be a mom, in Arizona, which you can't envision that today, let alone back in the day when she did it. So, hey, listen, I want to bring up on the phone right now, very happy he had the time to make for us to come on to talk about a super big decision that took place yesterday. And it's going to have an impact, I think, in Douglas County. I'm not sure it's a good one. Mike Peterson, former president of the Douglas County School Board. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, George.
What happened? I mean, what's going on? I wanted to call you El Presidente one more time, and then yesterday you said bye-bye.
Yeah, obviously, for those that don't follow the Douglas County School Board, we had a special meeting last night to swear in our new directors as a result of an election. And due to some personal and mainly professional matters, I'll actually be leaving the state at the end of December when my youngest daughter graduates. So I would need to step down via statute. That being said, last night we did appoint those directors, get them sworn in, and we did elect a new president for the school board. And I am happy to announce that president of the Douglas County School Board is now Christy Williams, and Douglas County and the school district are going to be in great hands under her leadership.
Please make sure you grease the skids, Mike, with her for us. I think we've had her on once before, but please grease the skids. We'd love to have her available to us to have conversations about the important educational issues going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we talk a little bit about the cool stuff you mentioned unrelated to the school board, which is, and cool, but maybe not great for Colorado? You're leaving the state in December. There's only a couple reasons this could happen. One, something really good, like maybe you landed some sweet gig or your job's moving you, birth of a grandchild. Or two, you are fleeing a coming warrant. Is that which?
I heard all types of rumors, George. It was amazing. Being a guy that tries to be transparent, I informed the other directors on the school board and the superintendent about 2 weeks ago that this was the plan. And one of the criticisms I got was, hey, why didn't you let everybody know that you were leaving the state months and months ago? And the answer was something that you were very involved in, is we had some initiatives on the ballot.
That's right.
And through support of people like yourself, we had Initiative 5A passed. I call that pay for performance. We as the board put the initiative on the ballot, and the taxpayers decided to give Douglas County a raise. And boy, did we need it. Douglas County School District is the #1 performing district in the entire Denver metro area, but was by far an outlier in terms of pay on the negative side. Due to the efforts of people like yourself and people in the Invest in DCSD group, we were able to get that initiative passed and take care of our teachers. And that was absolutely a wonderful thing. But to quickly answer your question, It can be both. I had a wonderful bit of luck in a company that I founded right in the beginning of COVID. And it is all of a sudden picking up and going gangbusters. So that is one of my main reasons for leaving the state. But like many other people, I'm also an immigrant in part of this soft secession and looking to align myself with things that are more in line with my values. That's a minor part, but it is a part of it.
So it sounds like you're moving to Vermont. No, I'm kidding. Can you tell us, is it a secret, or can you tell us which state you've decided to relocate to with the business?
No, for a whole variety of reasons. Everybody has their own preferences, but I am moving to the wonderful open sky country of Montana.
Wow, buddy, which part of Montana? Because I hadn't been up there in years. Went up there to both Billings and Bozeman about 2 weeks apart for very different reasons. What a beautiful state. What part are you going to?
As far northwest as you can get. That's my type of country. It is beautiful up there, and because my business allows me to afford to live anywhere I want, but that's the place we're going for a variety of reasons. I'm looking forward to getting up there just from a beauty of nature aspect, if nothing else.
So this is it. You're going to kick off 2024 as a Montana resident.
Yeah, eventually. I do have a daughter that's in school here. We'll be finishing out the semester down here. She's due to graduate early from high school. So when she finishes up at the end of the month, we will be heading north on a personal note.
What an incredible path and journey, man. And I know for you, you've been thinking about this probably for a bit. This isn't a decision you make rashly. But for everybody else, it's like, whoa, here today, gone tomorrow. That's tough, man. For me, I mean, because I think you've done such a good job on the school board. Can we get back to 5A and 5B real quick? Everybody knows where I was on these. And I failed, by the way, to convince Michael Fields to join us. But here was the interesting part, Mike, and that was, as a conservative, as a fiscal conservative, I could see voters in Douglas County voting up 5B and voting down 5A because 5B was bonds, man. And if you're going to go through, I mean, that seems like the fiscally conservative, smart way, but it was the opposite. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it was just the level of knowledge, frankly, and hats off to Superintendent Aaron Kane and everyone who for the last 2 years educated Douglas County residents on how the School Finance Act actually works. And in this case, if you are a pure numbers person in terms of tax increases and percentages and how much each member is going to affect your own personal finances, 5B was the better deal. It was the larger amount, but it was the smaller potential increase
based
on property assessments. 5A, the smaller amount, was actually the larger increase. However, I believe the need for 5A was so dire, and with a national teacher shortage and the competition in the Denver metro area, I'm telling you, George, on the inside, we had staff that was incredibly anxious, nervous, and I think if we would have failed on 5A a second time, we would have had a mass exodus this summer, which would have ultimately manifested itself in reduced academic achievement performance, basically our inability to perform our mission at the level we have. So I honestly think the voters, if they picked one, made the good choice this time in terms of priorities. We'll come around and we'll get 5B later because, as you know, bonds are absolutely essential to ongoing annual maintenance, other things. But I think that the voters picked wisely this time.
You know, we can only know anecdotally at this point, but what have you heard from those who before expressed some sort of angst over the funding thing? I imagine every school district deals with this in one way or another, but we just happen to be in a more dire position. Like, I know teachers that left to go to Cherry Creek just because of the 5-digit increase in pay. And who can blame them, by the way? Have you heard from staff and faculty that, hey, thank God 5A passed, now I'm staying?
100%. And the level of stress and pressure in the system that was relieved because what the voters of Douglas County did cannot be overstated. We have some stability. There's a sense of calm, and it kind of reminds me it was a big moment. Just like when COVID lockdowns ended, you could see a lot of stress and relief come out of the district because teachers were actually able to teach. And a similar feeling occurred after 5A passed, that, okay, the pressure's come out of the system. We know that we'll be able to stay here, and now we can just focus on our jobs, which is teaching kids and getting them ready for whatever's next.
Who fills in that vacancy that's created, not for the presidency, but by your absence from the board itself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's all via statute. One of the reasons that I stayed on through the special meeting last night is we were in a very strange position with new directors coming in. If I had stepped down prior to last night, I don't know if the Douglas County Board of Education even would have been able to elect officers, president, vice president, et cetera, because you may have had a 3-3 split, and that would have really left the district in an unstable, uncertain position, which is something I would never want to do. So the way the process works is there is now a 3-3 board. I did officially, as I said I would, inform President Williams of my resignation last night, effective today. The board has to actually accept that in public. That'll probably happen here on the December 12th meeting. The board has to, the 6 members have to vote to accept my resignation, and then that starts a timer via statute. The board now has 60 days, and we just went through this process with Elizabeth Hansen when she resigned. But the board has 60 days to solicit nominations. My replacement has to live in Directorate B, so anyone listening that is west of I-25, west of Santa Fe, from the southern county line all the way up to about Roxborough Park. So you have to geographically reside in my directorate, and then they'll take nominations, they'll do interviews, and then the board will try to vote on a replacement. If 4 out of the 6 members or more can agree on the replacement, that person will be appointed. If after 60 days from when my resignation is officially accepted by the board go by and the board is gridlocked, the president, in this case, Christy Williams, will appoint my successor.
Wow. What's your expectation? And I ask it in this context, you know, David Ray, former school board president before the change in control, this is what was reported, made a motion yesterday to, or not a motion, but asked you to recuse yourself from the vote. So it would end up being a 3-3 tie and all of that other stuff. First, why do that? And what are the ramifications of that? And does that foreshadow what's going to take place in filling that gap on the board?
It may, and really, when I left last night, I made some remarks about choices before this board, and you talked about it in the last hour, George. You know, there's obviously a division. You've got internecine warfare over on the right-hand side with the GOP. When you think back to 5A, the Douglas County GOP leadership failed to support 3 outstanding candidates because they couldn't pass 5A as a school board. All they did was put it on the ballot for voters to decide. And in some GOP leaders' minds, that disqualified 3 excellent candidates for running for the board. And over on the left, we saw it the other week up under the Golden Dome, the intersectional cannibalism going on, voters being completely ignored in what they said for HH, and the legislators on the left locking out all the legislators on the right. And I really hope the Douglas County board doesn't follow either one of those examples. They may come to a 4-2 or greater decision on one of these candidates, or they may wind up having to have Christy Williams to cast the vote. But that's really up to the 6 remaining board members.
We're talking with Mike Peterson, former president of the Douglas County School Board as of last night. So does this mean you're done? Like you've cleaned out your office, if there is one? You've turned back in your BlackBerry. That's an old reference, but you know what I'm talking about. Is it all over? Like you don't need to come to any more meetings or anything?
Right. I turned in my badge, my computer, my great symbols of power. And what I've been, what I wanted to tell the media is I actually negotiated a severance package worth 3 times my annual salary on the way out. And obviously you get that joke because we get paid nothing. But yeah, so actually I'm genius. Yeah. I'm officially done. But again, I think this district under Christy Williams will be in really good hands. And she's someone that looks at outcomes and not just process, right? When you just only focus on the process, as one of the directors claims to do, you can either focus on process to get the results the process was intended to achieve. You can focus on process for process sake, right? You know, where we saw that in the movie Office Space, you know, it's all about the TPS reports. Or you can use process as a weapon. And, you know, referencing David Ray and some of the leaks of my resignation and accusations just in the last week regarding how process has been used by the minority on the board during my tenure, my opinion is they're not using process to achieve the results that it's intended to achieve for the district. Very often process is being weaponized, and I really hope that those members on the board will go away from that and start focusing more on the mission of the district. And that's something that Christy Williams absolutely will do as president.
We're going to have her on in the near future if you can convince her to put at risk any credibility that she has by joining the show. But you, my friend, are now free of the shackles of having to be even moderate at all in any of your conversation pieces about the school district. I have 2 things I want to talk to you about if you're willing to do it. One is, and they're taking place in other school districts. North of us is a place called Denver, and they have had a policy that got a lot of attention, not nearly as much as it should, where they have juvenile kids who are accused of crimes like attempted murder and other heinous things. And when they're placed back out in the community by the courts, because that's what the courts do, they're placed right in a seat right next to some other law-abiding kid. Do you know what I mean? Which I can't imagine any parent is like, that's okay. They're presumed innocent. I'd like for them to sit next to Timmy or Susie or whatever. Is there something in state law that compels us to do that? Or in Douglas County, are we taking a different approach to kids that are accused of violent crime and what you do with them pending their trials?
Yeah, that's a great dilemma that we have, George. Certainly, we have to follow statute. And the public school system, one of the great things about the public school system is alternative educations, different paths, being able to reach each student where they are, and being able to have some degree of grace. You know, kids are going to be kids. And as you know, through all your years in the judicial system, honest mistakes are made. And there are kids that are good kids, they get off track. And we need to identify those kids, support them, and get them headed in a better place. However, kind of like the Hamas conflict going on, there are some kids that do things that are so heinous, despite their age and juvenile status, that they cannot be overlooked. So when we get into things like extreme violence, rape, murder, physical assaults, those are crimes. If you think back to when I ran for the school board 2 years ago, there was a rape in Virginia, and it made national news. And there was a boy that was trans that raped a girl in a bathroom. And people said to me, "Gee, Mike, I hope that doesn't happen in Douglas County. How would you treat it?" I said, "It has nothing to do with the individual. The facts in the crime are a rape occurred in a school, and that needs to be referred to law enforcement and appropriate action taken." And that's my stance as an individual. And I hope school districts would treat those type of issues that way. If there is an actual crime, let's just call it a crime. It doesn't matter that it's a student. It doesn't matter on the age. Refer that to the judicial system, be objective, and let justice be done.
Another issue that's taking place down south, and we had Rose Puglisi, assistant minority leader for the House, on to talk about it earlier this week. And that is that there was a letter sent by a bunch of public leaders down there to District Attorney Michael Allen, a fantastic DA from the Fight and Fourth Judicial, to say, hey, you need to investigate and, where appropriate, take legal action about books that are in the public schools. I don't know if you saw that or followed that, Mike, but I went to the website where they've got some screenshots of imagery and words that are, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't know this was taking place in libraries. Do we have that issue in Douglas County?
Yeah, that's a national issue, right? And this is a conversation that's been had nationally, but we need to take a Douglas County perspective. Again, my disposition as an individual, and when I was president, was always, speech is going to be sometimes hateful, sometimes offensive, sometimes lewd. But I was always a proponent of err on the side of free speech. Now, in an educational setting, I'm also not into, as an individual, banning books, but I am into having parents decide what is age appropriate. And we need to have protections in place to let parents decide. And that if I could try to sum up my short 2 years as president, when I came in, my first priority was to restore the role and voice of all parents in education as a fundamental right, and understand that the role of the parent and the role of the educator is different. But if we can put them in partnership, a mutually respectful partnership for the benefit of the student, that's what we need to do. And I don't think the district should be making decisions for parents on what their children should and should not be exposed to. So I really believe that's a parents' rights issue. The role of the district in that is making sure the parents get to exercise those rights.
How does that happen? Like, let's say parents discover that in their kids' middle school or something, there's a book that they're, offended by or aghast by or think it's really bad. What's that process? Like, who determines what books go in a school?
Well, in the case of Douglas County, which I'll speak to, there's district policy around approved curriculum, approved materials. There is a policy on public complaints. And the first thing is follow the policy, go address it with the district via their unique policy. And if you think something should be parentally restricted and the parent should make the decision and it should not just be available to students, that's what I would recommend to a parent. and then have the district address it. Again, it's really about the district ensuring that the parents get to make appropriate decisions for their children. And that's all parents, the left, the right, the middle. At the end of the day, parents should be in charge of raising their children.
Final question before we cut you loose to the great north there, Mike. What is the single biggest challenge that's confronting Douglas County over this next year when it comes to education? And is it one that's unique to Douglas or throughout the metro area and state?
No, other than the macro issue that's confronting the nation around partisanism and partnerships versus partisans, the unique Douglas County issue, now that we've taken some relief on 5A, is going to be growth and decline in my mind. The fact that 5B was not passed, the fact that we have aging out population, specifically in Highlands Ranch and other pockets of extreme growth, the board, the superintendent are going to have to, unlike Jeffco and Denver, get ahead of this growth and decline capacity model. There's some places that schools may have to be consolidated, yet there's other places that desperately need community schools, whether those are public neighborhood schools or whether those are public authorized charter schools. That's going to be the biggest issue at the strategic level, I believe, confronting Douglas County.
Mike, now that your kids are out of public school, how old's your youngest that you know of?
My youngest, my youngest is 17, soon to turn 18.
So is this it, man? You're going to head up there to that northwest part of Montana. A lot of people will call it Canada. Are you going to get involved again up there in the way that you are here? Or do you feel like, no, this is it, man? I've done my piece.
I can't help myself, but one of the things I have learned in my short time in the political career is get up there and probably spend about 6 months or a year just listening before I open my yapper. The last thing people want is an outsider coming in and telling people how things are. And I will end that on whoever comes into the school district to pick up my spot. I suggest they do the same. Maybe do a little listen before you do running your mouth. So that would be my one piece of advice, and I intend to follow it.
And now that you're free of it, who is absolutely the worst person to work with on the school board? I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that to you, Mike. Hey, listen, thank you for making time out of your busy day to share with us what's going on so that we can, one, kill off the rumors, but two, I'm just glad we can have this conversation where you're now post-school board and you can say a little more about this and that. And I'm just sorry we're losing you from the county and the state. We need good people here, good conservatives.
Yeah, and I'll just end with thanking you, George, thanking the voters that passed 5A and did the right thing for our district. Because when you do the right thing for our district, you do the right thing for our students. You have been a champion. You've been an advocate. And I'd just like to thank all of Douglas County for taking care of our district. They've done an excellent job. It's not
thanks,
about,
buddy.
not about the board.
No, I appreciate that. I really do. Good luck to you and your family and your daughter. And hopefully you're not cold all the time because you're up there near the polls. I don't know. But good luck to you, Mike. And thanks again for always being a buddy and talking on the show and giving us up-to-date stuff on things. That's Mike Peterson. He is the former president of the Douglas County School Board. I think all of these issues, by the way, transcend just Douglas County. They go everywhere. I just have access to Mike. I don't have access to other school board presidents. Although, you know what? I do think I want to reach out to Ken Witt. Maybe we'll do that. Ken's a super smart guy, former president of the Jeffco School Board, now superintendent down there just south of Douglas County. Let me see if I can't get him on too. He's probably got some interesting perspectives on this as well. Hey, stick around. I'd love to get your feedback on this. Same question I asked Mike Peterson. What's the biggest challenge facing the schools moving forward, in your opinion, and how do we address them? 303-696-1971. I'd love to get your feedback on that. And then we'll talk a little bit about Sandra Day O'Connor too. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Back in black, right here, ACDC on 710 KNUS. It's George Brauchler. We are on the back half of the 8 o'clock hour. That means only about an hour after this one until we get to that well-deserved weekend. It'll be a drill weekend for me. It'll be a Billy Does 800 Different Jobs weekend for Billy. My thanks to Mike Peterson, just a really nice guy. He's always been accessible to us and has always been willing to come on and answer the good questions and not the not good questions too. I'm just, Billy, I don't know how to describe it here. I'm always disappointed when good people leave. And I'm not just now talking about the state of Colorado or Douglas County. It's this same feeling I have when we have people leave us, you know, at 710.
Yeah.
And we have. This year has been one of those years. And I'd love to talk about the school board. I'd love to talk about the stuff facing schools and all that. But part of me is just like, it's bittersweet. I told Mike in a text just now, I'm like, part of me is really jealous, man, that you get to start over in a case that is in a state as liberty loving as Montana. Now, the Northwest scares the crap out of me because it's cold outside right now. In the Northwest of Montana, I got to believe that ice cubes are the order of the day 9 months out of the year. I don't know if that's true.
I really hope Mike either has invested in a riding snowblower or doesn't have a driveway. One or the other. I'm not sure which, but one of those has to be the solution. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
But you know, there's this thing where I picture, like, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to start over someplace? Do you know what I mean? And at the same time, I'm like, but I like so much of what I've had and I have here. And I don't know, man, it's weird. It's like, again, when someone leaves 710, it's like watching someone get paroled. Right? Like, I don't feel like they're being voted off the island. Like, oh no, you should. It's like we're holding on to the bars, pressing our face in between, saying things like, make sure you write, let us know how it's going.
Yeah, my wife and I have always talked about that, the idea of, just packing up and going and starting somewhere over. But every time we get to that point, we're pretty sure the kids would find us. So we're like, I can't really do that. I'm pretty sure to find us wherever we go. So
if you could do the Home Alone thing and put a little choo-choo train with silhouette cutouts and the shadows moving across the window, maybe you could at least give yourself more of a lead time.
Exactly. So they wouldn't figure it out for a while. Yeah. It is nice.
It's tough, man. It's tough because I have this constant sense of, and this is, by the way, what makes the 1st of December and the 1st of the new year. It's that chance to, like, start anew. Like, okay, December 1st, I'm not going to do any of the bad things that I did in November by way of eating, which is a lie I tell myself every single month. Why do I pick that day versus the 2nd or 3rd? There's no logic to it. It's the 1st. It makes it feels like you're starting something new. Same thing with New Year's resolutions. And we'll talk about this later on. I make New Year's resolutions. I keep no New Year's resolution, but I make all of them. But it's that same thing. Like, I get to start over,
Yeah. It's about hope. Yeah. And it is hard
hope,
when you have
hope. That's it. Hope.
It is hard when you have people that are talented walk away from, and because it is that idea of a brain drain, people that you want in the system that are then leaving, especially on politics side. And it's a great argument for and against the idea of term limits. Because if you have term limits, then are you letting these people that have this long-term, ability inside of the Beltway in order to make sure that policy happens and doesn't happen? Are you giving that up? And that is a question. However, if everybody churns over that often, then, do you replace that with something else? The fact that you have to get the work done in X amount of time, so you charge as hard as you can, and then that the race is over. Is it the idea that politics in this country should be more of a long marathon, or is it more like a 40-yard sprint? How do we want our politicians to be there? Do we want to have them come in and do as much as they can in a short amount of time as possible? Or should we have this be more of a career? Should you be a career politician type of an idea? But I can see why in certain environments, why some of the good people would walk away simply because it's not worth it. And I know some people in the audience won't like this, but I would put Ken Buck in that box right now too. Someone that I believe still has a lot to give to our Congress has decided that no, I'm tired with this race and I'm hanging up my shoes. And I think that's going to be a detriment to our state.
Yeah, the term limits thing, man, is something that popped back in the news. If you recall, Ron DeSantis had said, I want to see term limits. It was another one of these videos that I find to be desperate. And in part, it's because I think he knows he's getting crushed on the fundraising and polls part of this thing compared to where he was and where he should be. But he's now doing these little videos, TikTok length videos, where, and one of them was, hey, we ought to have term limits for congressmen. The other thing, and just an aside, stop using your hands to talk, man. I'm telling you, with the head bob and the hands talking thing, it looks stupid. That's just my opinion.
I'm sorry.
I could end up being my commander in chief. Please stop doing it.
Says the guy that keeps putting his hands in front of the camera. I
put my hands in front of my camera in a different way. Like I'm touching my face.
I'm just
this guy can't talk without moving his hands. And by the way,
if I didn't say
you
something,
have a little of that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I talk with my hands all the time. If I didn't say that, Mark Crowley down the hall would have walked in and hit me in the back of the head, and I would have deserved it. If I didn't, when you talked about him talking with the hands, if I didn't mention something about the both of us,
talking with the hands and using the hands to cover the, cover the video.
Yeah.
And
Smart.
did you see that? I have that
Yeah,
cut
good.
right there on that.
Very
corner.
nice. Nice job.
Yeah, it's very, very, very different.
Yes.
But the term limits thing is real. Like, I'm a beneficiary of it because, I ran against the incumbent in her reelect and lost. Although had I not done that, I'd have never won the general. I would have kept serving. And there's no knock on Kellner, and he knows this too. I'd have kept running.
Yeah.
I probably would have come to the same conclusion John did, which is after this last election cycle, which is, oh my God, the new 18th of just Arapahoe is a brutal blue county. I mean, very difficult to get elected in. But I do worry about that. I worry about the establishment becoming entrenched in there. But I also worry about the fact that you've created lame ducks and people who just can't get it done. And instead we end up creating a hyper political district attorney universe. And in Congress, you embolden all of these unnamed, unaccountable staffers to kind of run Congress, which is dumb.
You hit something on there that sparked a thought in my weird little brain. I know it's scary, and it's not about snakes, oddly enough. Now, the thing was where you talked about the idea of getting things done. I think that with term limits, it only works if everybody's operating off the same term limits. If some states have them and some states don't, I think that creates a disadvantage for those that are allowed to be longer term politicians.
For which office?
I would say Congress. I'm just looking at Congress. And
well,
we can
you
talk
could
about the
never
local
do it state by state. You could never do it state by state.
I know, but what I would do is I would love to have the states go ahead and enact their own rather than doing an overarching, hey, in Congress, you can only serve this many years. I would love to have that, and I'm going to have to grab this phone call here in a second. But one of the things that I question is with some of those longer term politicians, does it come to a point where getting things done is the antithesis of your job? That as long as you can continue this slow malaise and this grind of nothing actually happening, you have to be sent back in order to keep it going, because we know the momentum that sits behind an incumbent. And so if you're an incumbent, is there actually a motivation to not get things done rather than to get things done because it's job security? And I think there's
that's a good question. I hope not. I hope there isn't a disincentive to be productive because you feel like, if I get it done, I don't know that there's that. There may be a different pacing because you feel like you have more time to get it done. But
that's the idea.
Unlike Al Sharpton and the race stuff.
Well, with that pacing, that's what I'm talking about. Is if you know that you got 6 years, you got 8 years, that's different than saying I could be here for 20. That, hey, I know that we need to do something about the border policy. I mean, imagine, let's talk Chuck Schumer, and probably in his heart of hearts, I believe that Chuck knows we have a problem at the southern border and things should be done about it. But is it job security for Chuck not to solve that, or at least slow walk it? Is it job security to take baby steps now and then more baby steps next year and more baby steps next year rather than actually solve the problem? Is the lack of a close time frame hurting it? And I'm going to grab the phone.
Yep. Yeah, do that. Hey, listen, here's the other thing. We've got some texts coming in. I want to get to these things, but give me a chance to read them, digest them, and we'll come back and chat about them. Our phone number, and obviously people are calling in. Try to jump on one of the open lines at 303-696-1971. Cut away for a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this hour. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. ANC at Alice and Chains right here on 710 ANUS. My name is George. Quick reminder, I should have done this before the last segment there, that the go-to person for any help that you need when someone has hurt you is our buddy Dan Kaplis. Thankfully, that guy's not leaving the state of Colorado. That dude is all Colorado. We got him from Chicago via an Evans scholarship up there at CU Boulder. Go Buffs, my alma mater ×2. Dan as well. If you'll recall, Evans Scholars, where it's a scholarship for caddies. Here's a guy that grew up in Chicago. Dad was a Chicago police officer for, I think, his entire professional life. Dan, blue-collar kid, comes to Colorado. And now, listen, the success that Dan has is not by virtue of the fact that he's really tall, although he is really tall. It's because of the hard work and the commitment and all the other skills and values that he learned out there in that Chicago police officer's family in blue-collar Illinois. But he's brought that same work ethic and commitment to his success and your success in his law firm. He's hired nothing but the best. I say that as a guy he hired once, but also Babar Wahid. That kid was great when I did his first trial with him a few years ago. And by a few, I mean 17. And they've just been killing it on behalf of folks. So listen, if you need help, you've been hurt by someone's negligence, recklessness, whatever it is, you got a whole bunch of options. Some are on billboards, some are on trains, some are on buses, but some are just out there knowing that if you pick up the phone and call them, you're going to get the best. 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551. You can check them out at dankaplislaw.com. Kaplis, as always, Caplis, dankaplislaw.com. Let's get to the phone lines. Bern, you're on 710 KNUS. Bern, what do you think?
Well, I'm glad you guys were talking about the representation earlier, and they were talking about term limits. I don't necessarily agree with term limits, but I think that we need to get some more of a proportional representation in our government.
What does that mean?
Proportional representation. I think when the United States first started, there were about one representative per 20 or 30,000 people, and now there's one representative for hundreds of thousands of people, and that's just so we've diluted our votes, we've diluted our representation with 450 representatives. We probably need about 4,500 to get back to where it was when the country was founded.
Well, first, yikes. Two, it's 435. But do you think we would have a better functioning government if we increase their numbers by tenfold?
Yes, I do.
How so?
Well, I think first of all, everybody's concerned about representatives being bought and paid for, and the amount of money they cost to be reelected. That yes, those parties would be a much more difficult position, and the representatives, it's much more difficult to buy 4,500 voices and keep them quiet than 435 voices.
Do you think first off, the cost would be astronomical, right? Like there is not enough office space in Washington, D.C. in that Capitol Hill area. You'd have to blow up government buildings, one, but the cost to have 4,500, or let's say 4,350 members of just the House would be incredible. You're talking about whether it's the franking privilege or travel or staff or whatever it is, just their salaries. Do you think America would support that?
Well, I think that they're wasting trillions of dollars now on things that don't work at all. And during the COVID thing, we were sold on the idea that we can do these Zoom meetings. We don't necessarily have to be in the same room. I think it's the only real solution, because if you look back to the time of the American Revolution, we had more representation when the king was running the country than we have today. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but let me ask this. Do you feel like the Senate or the House function more efficiently?
Oh, I think it's House. Right?
I couldn't hear you, sir. You broke up on me. Uh-oh. Did you just run into Jason Crow? What happened?
No, hold on one second. There. Hello?
Bern, we got you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fact. If you have your buddy there, look it up. The representation there's a much higher level of representation for a voter than there is today. and even in the population. We just need to go back to that. And as a matter of fact, other countries do it. I think if you look at Japan, there are several thousand people that are involved in their Congress, and they seem to be able to make it work.
Yeah, this big, I don't know. I'm not sure there would be any support for throwing more tax money at politicians. Maybe, Bern, maybe the answer is we try to continue to de-emphasize the influence and importance the federal government has in the operations of our lives, and instead bring representation that matters back down closer to home. So instead of more people we send out to DC, let's just have more of the power shift back to the states and the local communities. Then who cares what Congress does?
Well, what you're doing when you do that is you're really increasing representation.
Yeah. Okay, if that's the way you want to define it, great. But isn't that a much preferable way to do it than exploding Congress? Bern, God, man, great question that you posed for us right there, but we're out of time. Hey, when we come back, we're going to turn it over to whatever issue you want to have here. It's Friday, 303-696-1901. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. 710 KNUS. This is the final hour of the first show of December, last show of the week. We were just talking about Congress, how to fix it, proportional representation, and lo and behold, breaking news coming out of Congress. George Santos, if that's his real name, has been expelled. That could only happen with the vote of Republicans in addition to Democrats. It's a historic vote. He's only the sixth lawmaker in the history of the United States to be voted out of the House of Representatives. That's, that is quite a distinction to have there. But he's gone. And if you'll recall, he had survived other attempts before. I think McCarthy kept him around and didn't push for it because he thought he was going to need, and did, Santos's vote to become Speaker for the 15 minutes he was Speaker earlier this year. But here are the vote totals per BTs: 311 to expel, 114 vote against. The question really here for me with that is, who were the 114 and why did they not vote to expel him? I mean, this is a 2/3, 1/3 kind of a thing. I'm interested to know what's going on. I don't know, man. Crazy stuff. What do you think about that? I mean, listen, if you're a Republican, you wish Santos was a Democrat, because this dude is a punchline and a punching bag. I have rarely come across anyone who is this guy is like what was that movie with Matt Damon, The Incredible Mr. Ripley? Do you remember that? And it had Gwyneth Paltrow in it. It had Jude Law in it. It had that great actor who died way too early that was in one of the Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was in it. And it was about this guy who just came from nothing and ended up becoming a doppelganger and would associate different pieces of other people's identities and pretend to be something. That's this guy right here, right? I mean, he was a liar before he was sworn in, and we knew it, and we still swore him in. Fascinating stuff. But I'll be honest with you, is it that different? Then, I mean, it's just a broader scale, a larger scale, but is this a lot different from what you get, or at least your perception of what politicians have? Here's the breakdown. BT's is doing the deep dive on this. 206 Democrats voted to expel him. That's to be expected. But 105 members of the GOP, the grand old party, it says here there were 2 Democrats that voted not to expel. What? I mean, were they his parents? Like, who wouldn't vote to expel him on the Dem side? 112 GOP. It was almost 50-50 in terms of the House delegation on the Republican side to vote to expel versus retain. Very, very interesting stuff. I don't know what to make of it. The Speaker of the House, his name's Mike Johnston. He is Johnson as opposed to Mayor Mike Johnston. Mike Johnson is going to notify the governor of the state of Colorado there's a vacancy in the House seat. You know, here's what's interesting in a difference between the House and the Senate. I think in the Senate, for the United States Senate, the governor can appoint into that position. That's what we saw with Michael Bennet way back when he got appointed by Bill Ritter, much to the chagrin of John Hickenlooper, and he was appointed in there. But for the House, you have to hold a special election. And I think until you do, there is no voting member of Congress. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think there's no other voting member of Congress. 2 other Dems voted present, according to Billy Thorpe, who's doing wonderful, wonderful work. Listen, the Congress thing and the term limits thing, would this be a cure to that, by the way? God, I kind of love this story. This Santos guy isn't he destined for some kind of an online reality show? I mean, his life is an online reality show at the moment, but don't you see this guy making his millions now, instead of claiming them, making them legitimately on, like having his own YouTube channel?
Well, I've heard
like
that from George.
Fabulist.
Yeah, I've heard from George Santos that he's very mad because he said, this is the first time in our history that Congress has ever expelled a Nobel Prize winner, the man who cured cancer, and the winner of the previous Oscar for Best Actor. Yes, that he's very mad
That's
that after all those awards that he has
all in
amassed,
one.
all in one. They're mad that he is no longer allowed to be fabulous inside of the House. You're right. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be one of the most competitive districts in this next election. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight because, of course, that's a longtime Dem district that Santos flipped. And if you are that Democrat, you should be kicking yourself or smacking yourself repeatedly in the face with a hammer that your Oppo research didn't find out all the stuff. How much did you pay for the Oppo research?
And I think I've heard that dude screaming at the top of his lungs, where was all this during the campaign?
Yes. Who did you pay to do your Oppo research, you idiot? But thank you for doing that.
There are 5 people who preceded Santos as expelled members of the House here. And if you look at them, this is clearly different than them. Let me just read you. There's a guy named John Clark. He was kicked out in July of 1861. For anyone following history, they know that that is right about the kickoff for something called the Civil War. He was kicked out of the House for disloyalty to the Union and fighting for the Confederacy. John Reed, in December of that same year, disloyalty to the Union and fighting for the Confederacy. It sounds like these were guys who actually took up arms against the Union. Makes sense, that you'd get kicked out. That the first guy, John Clark, was from Missouri. Let's check out this John Reed fella. He was from the great state of Missouri. So 2 Missouri House members. Now, the day after John Reed gets expelled, and for the exact same reasons, disloyalty to the Union and fighting for the Confederacy, a guy named Henry C. Burnett from Kentucky, a Democrat, by the way, he was also expelled. There's no recorded vote on these things, at least that I can see on this House history website. Keep in mind the other 2 Democrats, or the other 2 guys that were expelled, also Democrats. I know that's going to come as a great deal of shock to many of you, but it turns out the Democrats back in the day were big on owning people. Here's another one, October of 1980. That's within our lives, Billy. There's a guy named Michael Myers. He was expelled for murdering people in a small town on Halloween. No,
I think it was near a lake, I think, if I remember correctly.
It was no, that's Jason.
That is Jason. You're right. That is Jason.
Yeah, Mike Myers was the dude from Halloween.
Yeah,
this was a Democrat from Pennsylvania, and he was kicked out for the very pedestrian causes of he was convicted of bribery.
Oh, that's boring.
That vote was, by the way, keep in mind, convicted of bribery, expelled, not a unanimous vote, 376 to 30. Like, don't you want to sit down with the 30 and ask, like, what's going on?
Yeah, are they the pro-bribery caucus?
Do you owe him money?
Yeah, exactly. Or does he owe you money? What's the issue?
Here's another one.
Yeah.
James, you'll remember this name, James Trafficant. This guy, of course, big hair. He was also, and fake hair, it was just the worst hairpiece possible, but he was known for it. Democrat. Shocker, again, Democrat. He was kicked out for, wait for it, convicted of conspiracy to commit bribery, defrauding the United States, receipt of illegal gratuities, obstruction of justice, filing false tax returns, and racketeering. And that vote was 420 to 1.
That's great.
Who's the one? Is it him? Did he get to vote on his own expulsion? I mean, did Santos? There were 9 people that simply voted present. Here's what you and I, Billy, and we're breaking this because no one else has reported on this yet. Santos becomes the very first Republican ever expelled from the House in the history of the United States.
Goodness, that's awful. But he's always wanted to be first. That's kind of what
and he has been the first. He was remember when he was on the moon.
Yes, exactly.
He becomes the first Republican. But if you listen to those descriptions of why, these ones seem, maybe they're in a zip code next to the zip code, but he's been convicted of nothing. He hasn't taken up arms against the Union. And that's what all 5 of these Democrats were kicked out for. He's just been a liar, a yet unconvicted fraudster, although I imagine that's coming. Is this enough to get rid of this guy? Maybe that's why there's 112 Republicans that voted to retain this guy.
Yeah. What bothers me on this is lack of a conviction. That is the linchpin for me that I find bothersome. I do not think that, given everything that we have seen so far, that Santos needs to be part of the House. I think it is a detriment and hurts the reputation of that body to have him continue to be a member of the House. I think it hurts both Democrats and Republicans to say that it's okay that he continues to be a member of the House. But the fact that there is no conviction gives me a little bit of a pause. I would be much happier if this expulsion happened after a conviction. Yet we know how slowly sometimes our wheels of justice turn. I'm wondering if, in part, and I don't know if the GOP is doing this, but if I am on the GOP side, if I was in the House caucus or even the Senate caucus, I would be telling them, get this clown out. We need to get this guy out because he's not a serious legislator and he's a distraction and he's going to be a wart that the Democrats will use to point at and say why we are still an unserious party. And then what you do is you toss him out and you turn around and you look at the Dems and say, yeah, I see this New Jersey senator that's been accused of bribery and working for Egypt and things.
Yep. Menendez.
How about you follow
gold bars?
Our
gold bar
rules.
Menendez.
Yep, exactly. It's like, how about you follow our example? For me, strategically, tactically, that's where this makes sense, is that you now put pressure on the Dems to bounce a senator. And the reason I would do that tactically is taking one member of the GOP caucus out of the House, percentage-wise, is de minimis.
Well, so do you think that's what they did then?
No.
This was a smart tactical move?
No, because at the core, I don't think either one of our parties, Dem or Republican, are smart tactically. I think that they stumble around and every once in a while are the blind pig that finds an acorn. But this is the tactic, because it is much smarter to get the Dems to remove a senator because of the percentages. It can change the balance of power. It can grind the Senate to a virtual halt for the Democrats if the GOP would do this right. That's where this needs to go. The GOP needs to stand up, rinse their hands, and look and say, we can clean our own house. Your turn. Can you do the same? That's where this needs to go.
Impact of this.
I don't think they're smart enough. I really don't think they're smart enough.
I now, as I'm sounding this out, I guess I'm not concerned that he got expelled, but maybe the standard has been set really low now. I mean, are we going to expel people for just being a jerk or a liar? If we start expelling people for being a liars, there won't be anybody left to vote on the expulsions.
That is true. Now, the thing for me is that it's and that's why the lack of conviction worries me, that if we had a conviction, then there's more of an impetus as far as why he needs to go. Here, we have the House sitting in judgment before any, things as far as factual rules, et cetera, have been determined in a court of law. That worries me because I think it gives both Republicans and Democrats the excuse of, oh, these allegations are so untoward. We are so, oh, clutch my pearls, fetch us the fainting couch. We are so concerned about what you are doing that we can't wait for a conviction. We're going to have to throw you out now. I think that's where this goes.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about some of the texts that have come in and continue this. But first, let me tell you about
Gay Ribble. First. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, don't apologize.
Okay,
Gay Ribble at the Empower Home team with Keller Williams. These are our people, our go-to folks when it comes to real estate questions of buying and selling. And many times those things happen together. We're going to get Gay back in the studio. She would have, could have, should have been on yesterday, but I couldn't be in there. So we ended up rescheduling. I'd just much rather have the conversation with Gay in person. She's just a fountain of knowledge from having done this for decades. The other thing that makes Gay and the Empower Home team special is that they make you guarantees others won't. Like, we will sell your house in this time for this amount. And if we don't, we will make it right with cash. They have a website. Now, I've told you about gayhasthebuyers.com, Gaye hasthebuyers.com, but they have a website now called Sell with Certainty Colorado. Ideal if you're thinking about, is this the right time for me to do this? What are my first steps I need to take? They give it to you all right there. Sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. I would just pick up the phone and call 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. Gay is the bomb. Now, here's some of the texts that have come in here. Speaking of coming and going, Von Miller indicted on domestic violence charges. I saw that out of Texas. And is it an indictment or is it a charge? I just don't know if Texas is a grand jury state or not. And it was his girlfriend who apparently was pregnant. I'm guessing it's with his kid. I just don't know if that's part of the issue. But the headlines I saw were pretty sensationalist before. It was like Von Miller attacks pregnant woman. And it's like, yes, he did. But if you don't throw in the fact that it was domestic, you have a much different picture in your head of what could have happened. Here's another text. George, I clapped my hands when you announced George Santos had been expelled. That guy has no, all caps, integrity and has no shame admitting. That's true. Great news. I'm a registered unaffiliated voter, but I'm definitely a conservative with high morals and integrity. I don't think that guy should serve in Congress. There are a bunch of people I don't think should serve in Congress, independent of their ideologies. For instance, Fetterman, and someone, I'll read you the text from someone else. But is this the bar that should be set? Shouldn't this be an issue for the voters? And I know some are going to say, well, we didn't know this about him when he got voted in. The voters didn't know. Okay, so what? What I don't know is there a vehicle to recall a congressman the way we do for people right now? Like, people could look at what's going on in Adams County and see the straight up hypocrisy and prosecutorial misconduct that is taking place and arguing two different sets of facts to two different juries to try to get convictions on two different groups and say, well, maybe then we should recall the guy wielding that power. We have the ability to do that in the state of Colorado. It's super painful, and it should be, but we could do that. I don't know if you can recall a congressman, but shouldn't that be the vehicle? Shouldn't voters get to decide if they want to send a liar to Congress? I mean, folks, we're talking about right now Donald Trump being on the ballot independent of any convictions that he has. I've heard some people say, shouldn't we change the law so that if you're a convicted felon or you're facing criminal indictment, you shouldn't be able to run for president? I don't want that, because then those things become political tools to keep people off the ballot. So should Donald Trump be allowed to run for president even if he's a convicted felon? I think so. The question is, do the voters get to make the decision, or is it someone else that makes the decision? And so here, guy isn't convicted. He hasn't taken up arms against the country or the union. It's tough. Dude's clearly a liar, clearly from a character standpoint, incapable of properly representing his community. But doesn't his community get to set that standard? Don't they get to make that decision? 303-696-1971. Another text. George, are you serious? Question mark, exclamation point. Who didn't want to expel him? How about you ask that question about the Jihad Squad? Why are they not expelled for their own lies? Not to mention their flat out anti-Semitism. Okay, I love the question, because doesn't that get us to this exact same point? And that is, what if the community that voted for them, they're also harboring anti-Semitic thoughts, right? Or they don't care. Don't they get to determine who their representative is? My concern with going down the road of expulsion is the House of Representatives has just now told those voters, we disagree with your opinion. You wanted this guy to represent you. We disagree. Now, should there be an opportunity for the House to do that in circumstances where, I don't know, you put on the uniform of our enemy and take up arms against the union? 100%. For things that happen midterm, like you're a convicted felon. Yes. But is that what happened with Santos? That's interesting. I don't think the guy's fit to serve in Congress, but does my opinion matter? Does your opinion matter? I don't think Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar or any of the squad should be in Congress, and their anti-Semitic views, yeah, I think it should disqualify them. But do our opinions matter? Do we want to embolden the House to take more expulsion actions? You know what this reminds me of? Something called impeachment. Do you remember that? Well, the good news, at least in terms of the use of this, is it's Republicans using it against Republican. But could this now open the door towards other efforts to get rid of people on far lesser grounds than you're a convicted felon or you took arms up against the union? That is very, very fascinating. 303-696-1971. Should the House in this circumstance override the will of the voters? I hadn't really given it much thought till we started talking about it here, but that's interesting. In no way am I a Santos fan. In no way do I think he should serve in Congress. But who cares what I think, right? Like, should the House be doing this? Can't you see this becoming weaponized My God, the impeachment thing, once the Democrats went down the road of impeaching Trump for the silliness they had impeached him for twice, now all of a sudden we've got Republicans saying, well, let's impeach Biden. What for? We'll figure it out when we do it. We'll get the evidence once we start to impeach him. Don't you see that as a potential when you lower the bar for expulsion below go to war against the United States and convicted felon? Those seem like interesting. I hadn't thought about it until we talked about it right now. Give us a call. Let me know what you think. Good or bad? Should Santos have been expelled? 303-696-1971. A couple more texts. Dem got elected while in a mental hospital. Agreed. Shouldn't the voters get to do that? Dude is a mental midget and on some sort of cognitive life support. Let's just say that. Shouldn't the voters get to decide that? Anti-Semitic, shouldn't the voters get to decide that? Shouldn't the voters win? 303-696-1971 is the number. We're going to cut away for a break. We'll start to get all of these phone calls and the text put together. Fascinating topic, and I didn't know that it would be until we started talking about it. Something else that's awesome that we're going to do next Tuesday, Step Denver. It's Colorado Gives Day. That's where we make things better for people in need. And you know I'm a huge fan of Step Denver. That's why we're going to go down there in person. It's why I'm donating my car, which is sitting in front of my house right now. I need to get rid of this thing. And I want it to be I could put the money in my pocket. I think I'd much rather try to save a life. And that's what Step Denver does. They take your contributions and apply them to a program that is not funded by a single taxpayer dollar, so they don't get to be told how to do it right. They know how to do it right. So what I want you to do is, and you can do it right now. You don't have to wait for Tuesday, but if you wait for Tuesday, then we get the credit for the hitting the fundraising number, which of course is always a goal. You can go to coloradogives.org. That's the big parent website, coloradogives.org/stepdenver. And you get to make a donation on December the 5th, but don't wait for that. I'd much rather you give the money than to wait for December the 5th and then forget to do it or what. Give it when you got it. Let's help Step Denver save the lives of those addicts and unhoused who are trying to turn their lives around. It is a great program for men. It is not an easy program, but it is an effective program. They save lives. You can help them do it. That's coloradogives.org/stepdenver. Listen, when we come back, your calls, your texts. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. says this is maybe George Santos' walk-up music. He's now going to need exit music because he was voted out of the House somewhere around 2/3 to 1/3, over 100, I think 105 Republicans voting to expel George Santos from his congressional seat in New York. There's going to be a vacancy there. I understand the reason that we have that ability to do that, and the fact that it's only been used 5 times before, and on all Democrats, right? Confederate loving, taking up arms against the Union. We want more slaves. Democrats back in 1861, 3 of them, and then 2 other Democrats in 1980 and 2002 who were convicted criminals for things like, bribery, obstruction of justice, racketeering, the huge. This is the first Republican ever expelled from the House of Representatives. And it's for us, and it's by Republicans, by the way. Couldn't have happened without Republican support. And it's for stuff that he hasn't been convicted, right? Guy's clearly a liar, clearly a fraudster, not convicted, hasn't had his day in court if there's going to be one. This is really for just generalized lying, misconduct kind of stuff that you associate with Congress anyway. This overrides the will of the voters of his district. And you can't say, polling, screw polling. Talking about the vote, man. Is this the right use of this? Or have we just now turned this into impeachment 2.0, where it's going to become a political tool to get rid of those we don't like? Let me ask you this. Is it a far stretch to suggest that if she fell out of favor with the leadership, that the House could say, well, let's vote to expel Lauren Boebert? Let's vote to expel the woman who was a DCPA on the Who Knew It Existed night vision capable cameras while she's groping some Democrat restaurant owner from Aspen, flipping people off, blowing smoke out of a vape pen, all that other stuff. Like, she needs to be expelled. Could that happen? And I'm in no way am I supporting that, by the way. I don't think that ought to happen at all. I think the voters get to have their say. Or for folks that texted in here and said, what about Rashida Tlaib? I'm like, great. Yeah, I'd love for her to be out of Congress. Is that a let's expel her thing? Or is that a voters thing? 303-696-1971. Here's one thing you can do, and that is expel the boring from your home, especially your kitchen, bathroom, or garage, by upgrading it with something that's not only high quality, but beautiful, almost like a work of art. That's when you call Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. You can call him. You can go to the website, theartofgranite.com, theartofgranite.com. But take some time, man, during these slower days leading up to the holiday. Get in the car, take your loved one with you or loved ones, and drive out to his showroom there at about Colfax and 6th-ish. Go in there and take a look around. I was amazed. I know you will. I wasn't even in the market for counters when I went there, and I walked around. I was like, dang, I had no idea. This is beautiful stuff. Whether it's quartz, that's the man-made stuff, or the God-made stuff, the granite, the marble, whatever it is, they've got craftsmen that can install it. No fuss, no muss. They'll make your house look beautiful. And the other thing is they love 710 listeners. So you tell them you're a 710 listener, you get more than the wholesale prices everybody gets. You get the bathroom countertop thrown in for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, maybe it's finishing the basement or the kitchen or the bath, they'll throw in the sink for free with the but only if you tell them you're a George listener for 710 KNUS. Give them a call, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. Going right to the phones right now. It's Joan. You're on 710 KNUS. Joan, what are your thoughts?
Well, good Friday morning, George. I think everybody is a little, I don't know, a lot
drunk?
Of news is breaking.
A lot of news.
Breaking. We're all sitting here going, Sandra Day O'Connor died.
Sandra Day O'Connor. Historic figure.
Yeah, and for women too, And so I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm sitting here going, George, I think you might be right that this is not a good thing to override the will of the people, because I've seen that done just lately at the legislature's special session. the people came out, they voted against HH. The legislation came in and said, we don't care what you think. We're going to take it apart in 4 parts apart. And yes, there were 4 parts of it. And yes, that isn't the way things should be. But, we do what we want to do. And they overrode the will of the people, and they voted the way they wanted to vote. So I'm knocking doors, and people are saying to me, why should I vote?
Why should I
And
vote?
so
Not even who should I vote for, but why should I vote?
Yep. Why should I
What
vote?
do you tell them, Joan? I mean, and here's where that question's important, because we have guys like Ron Hanks who have been out there saying we shouldn't even certify the 2023 election, which I know you participated in and you helped people participate in, and I participated in it. Is the message from the upper echelon of our party, there's no need to vote because you can't trust the outcome? Like, I'd love to get Ron on. I know Billy reached out. I'd love to get Ron on to ask him, did you vote? And if so, why? And are you going to vote again? And why? I mean, what do you tell people that ask, why should I vote?
I tell them that if you don't vote, then the people that are in control win.
Yeah, but it sounds like if you believe the fix is in on the election, they're going to win anyway.
It doesn't matter. If you give up and roll over, they win. You can't give up.
Maybe this is I don't want to give up either, but like if you're in Denver and it is a 4-1 turnout in terms of Democrats to Republicans, even just registration, how do you convince a Republican you need to vote when you're like, yeah, if you and every single registered Republican all voted twice, it wouldn't make a difference?
I ran in Denver for clerk and recorder.
Did you live there at the time?
Yes.
Okay. Well, listen, you don't have to live in your congressional district to run.
I know, but you do have to live in your district to run for clerk and recorder. What you were talking about with the school board, you actually, in Douglas County, you actually have to live in a sub-district. You can't just live in Douglas County. You have to live in the confines of that district that he just stepped down from. So yeah, there are.
So you ran, and why did you do it? Like, I don't think we're going to see a Republican candidate for district attorney. How do you convince people who look at the outcome, and whether it's they believe it's because the fix is in or the numbers are just against them, how do you convince them to vote? Because when you say, hey, if you don't vote, they win, isn't the response, if I vote, they win?
So the reasons I ran for clerk and recorder in Denver was because there was nobody running against the incumbent. And my husband stepped forward and he gave me money, and I went out and I did my best effort. And I actually think I did a real service to the city of Denver because I did all sorts of debating. And when I was doing the debating, I was also on the debate with the county assessor, the person who, does all the audits and stuff. And we got a really great person in there who's still there, and he has kept Denver somewhat on the straight and narrow. And I think
good luck with that. Joan, last question though, because you had said something at the beginning of this that I think we can tie in. So the Democrats win, and maybe they keep winning. Under what circumstances should a body of legislators or whatever group we elected them to be able to vote them out ostensibly over the will of the voters? What should it take to get there?
Well, I'm kind of proud that there were 100 and some Republicans that did step up and say this is not right. We have reached the bottom of the moral. I mean, this country is just morally bankrupt. And so, yeah, it's okay if you lie. It's okay. We've lost Lakewood because the people come in here and they say, oh, I believe in this and I believe in that and I'm pretty. And
wait. I'm pretty. That's what they say when they come to Lakewood. I believe in this. I believe in that. I'm pretty. Feels like you found your T-shirt for the season.
No, these women, and whatever comes out of their mouth, they just, think people will believe. And
well, they do.
And
they do, and that's the other part. Is Joan?
And it's really interesting because I actually went to a navigation center open house yesterday, and this navigation center is being run by Recovery Works, which is a homeless company that the Lakewood has contracted to run this navigation center. And there I was with a whole bunch of people, and they had sushi, trays of sushi. And I just sat there and I went, the disconnect from the elitist people that are running things.
But Joan,
you know,
if I'm going to take up arms in their favor, and only for this conversation, everyone knows the unhoused love them some sushi. But more to the point, I'd say they're probably thinking, why shouldn't everybody, why shouldn't everybody, regardless of socioeconomic status, have access to rice wrapped around fish and avocado? Joan, I got to let you go for the weekend. I'm sorry, I'm running out of time here, and I got to do a couple things, including tell folks about Brent and Joyce Tolliver. I don't know if they eat sushi or not, frankly, but I got to have them over to the house to look at my cabinets. That's what they do. You call up Brent and Joyce Tolliver. They're the son-mother team that have put together, and I love the entrepreneurial spirit, a business that makes your house just better. And by better, it's not the aesthetics piece. That's not what it does, unless maybe a little more efficiency means the countertops stay cleaner. I'm telling you, these people get into those cabinets in your bathrooms, in your kitchens, in your laundry rooms, and even I think in the garage. And that's where I want to really score some points with these folks. And they make them efficient by having the rollout shelves. If you've never had the rollout shelves in your house, it's like having going from a corded phone to a cordless phone. If you know what I'm talking about, right? Like you go to the rollout shelves and you're like, this is actually wonderful, because the things you put in there now, you're going to be able to access more than just once every time you crawl around on your hands and knees on the dirty floor. You've got to give these folks a call at 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601. $80 value if you have them out to your house for the free estimate. The installation of the first 4 rollout shelves, that's for free. That's $80. You just can't do better than that. There's no good reason to not call them if you're interested in being happier in your home. You can check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. That's rollemoutshelves.com. When we come back, me, the final text, final calls, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, final segment of the show. It's Friday, right? So it's one of those shows where it has taken these winding turns in and out of stuff. And the breaking news you simply can't predict. Sandra Day O'Connor, first woman to be appointed to the United States Supreme Court back in 1981 by a man named Ronald Reagan. By the way, for those keeping track, a lot of the firsts for women in terms of things like, voting, the Supreme Court, all took place at the hands of Republicans, by the way, whether it's the state of Colorado or Wyoming and women's suffrage, or Sandra Day O'Connor, who's a true trailblazer. I'm going to go out and try to find that. She's got a biography out there called First. I'm going to go try to see if I can't download that and listen to that. Real trendsetter. Right now we have 4 out of 9 members of the Supreme Court are women. Now, I know that doesn't seem like parity, and in no way should we ever be making decisions based on race or gender for who gets appointed to any of those positions. But I don't think that happens without there being the first, and that's Sandra Day O'Connor. It was just so important. And then George Santos on this first day of December. It's going to be a little bit of a bleaker Christmas until this guy figures out, and someone suggested this in a text, he ought to move out to Colorado and do a reality show with terrorist Timmy Hernandez. Can you imagine George and Timmy on the road? I mean, this is like Wayne's World, but it's something more modern and even crazier. I'd tune in to watch it. Maybe you would too. Here's something else I'd do. In fact, I did do it. And that's our friends at Ultra Botanica. They have that patented curcumin-based all-natural product called Ultra Cur with the little umlaut over the U, in case you're trying to look it up or find it somewhere. This is that product that does all of the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, positive health things that I've benefited from. I took it. Billy has taken it. Listen, if you can get the producer to take this, I mean, come on. That's just crazy town. I have experienced pain relief, not pain prevention. And I don't want to oversay what this does. It's not like, no, you'll never be hurt. It's not like that. If you're going to experience pain from running like an old man like I do, yeah, it's going to be there. But it goes away more quickly. That's just what happened. That's just how I experience it when I run and I take this. It just matters to me. So go to your natural grocers, get a free 3-day supply, but you have to go to the Vitamin Manager to get it. Ask for the free 3-day supply. And if you're like 50% of the people that take it, you'll experience relief within 48 hours. That's only 2 of those 3 days. And of that group, 50% experience some kind of relief within 2 hours. You just can't do better than that. You can go check them out at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Some more of the text. Since we're overturning the will of the voters, can we do Joe Biden next? Well, again, the only way to expel Joe or any president from the White House is through that impeachment process, which your point is well made. We have made this thing a political tool. I'm heartened by the fact that it's Republicans doing it to a Republican. Not because I still think it's right, but because if it was Democrats expelling Republicans or Republicans expelling Democrats in this day and age, you know you would never hear the end of it. It would be over. Here's one on the expulsion. I tend to believe it should be up to those who voted for him. Me too. If there are no laws regarding false statements made to get elected. Previous expulsions were for very high-level reasons. Yep, his continuing in office is an embarrassment to the Republicans and could result in the Democrat seat next time, so I think they're trying to get rid of him sooner rather than later and hope it doesn't impact the next election. Are the people of New York excited about any of this, or are their votes just being thrown out? Another example of local autonomy usurped by the federal level. I have the same concerns. Dude shouldn't be in Congress. But does my opinion matter in that? I ain't from there. Should we be expelling this guy for stuff less than a conviction or declaring war against the union? Here's one. She didn't lose because she was a Republican. People probably fell asleep before she delivered her message. I think under a secret vote. Oh, someone said, I think we ought to go to secret votes, and said it would disincentivize lobbyists and when people can vote their conscience without worrying. But then they also escape accountability. Like, I don't want anonymous voting for members of Congress because when they vote, I want them to be held accountable for their vote, both good and bad. Billy, I can see we're clicking into that danger zone. How much time, my friend? Final text. I do his voters the whole time he was running. Talib never lied about who they were. Santos had to be expelled. I don't agree. I don't think lying to the voters gets you there. But listen, we're going to continue to have these conversations and more. Drill Weekend, Step Denver, Colorado Gives Day next Tuesday. I'll be back in studio. George Brauchler, 7:10. Have a great weekend, KNUS.